One of the most recognizable superheroes in pop culture, the Flash is perhaps one of the fastest beings in DC Comics. While Barry Allen is the most well-known iteration of the character in the comics, there are many other versions, but Wally West is arguably faster than the former as the Scarlet Speeder. In 2009's The Flash, the Human Race comic series, West's version of the Flash reached something called trans-time velocity, which exceeded any speed theoretically possible in science. As a speedster, the Flash can easily travel well beyond the speed of light, which gives him the ability to time travel. This makes the character one of the most potent DC superheroes who can manipulate time to his advantage if need be. The ability to do this is indeed extremely powerful, but he isn't the hardest hitter nor the most durable. So while he is worth mentioning, he is not really powerful enough to make it any higher compared to others on this list. Number 9. Martian Manhunter. I think it's incredibly easy to overlook Martian Manhunter's incredible capabilities. Yes, he is more well known for being a telepath and a shapeshifter, but this guy packs a hell of a punch with the Martian abilities of phasing, Martian vision, and density alteration. Now, his probably most powerful form was when he became Furnace, completely negating his weakness for fire. But Furnace was a villain and therefore cannot be on this list. But in DC 1 Million, we get a John Johns who leads a war against Darkseid and gets him to surrender to the Source Wall, becoming trapped inside of it. The Source Wall in return gave John one wish. His wish was to become one with Mars, meaning John became a living planet while maintaining his multiversal telepathy and his genius intelligence. We don't get to see much of this version of John, but we can guess a lot of things about this version. Firstly, his weakness to fire is probably non-existent, because I mean, people gotta make fire on the planet, you know? We can probably assume John keeps his other Martian abilities to a degree as well, and there's also the possibility that the passage of time has increased those natural abilities considering he's defeated Darkseid. We can also assume he would now also have the powers that usually come with being a living planet, like weather manipulation and control of the elements. He can control the sands of Mars to an incredible degree too, so there's that as well. Number 8. Power Girl. There have been many versions of Supergirl throughout the years. None were remembered as fondly as Kara Zor-El, the cousin of Superman. While Kal-El was rocketed to Earth as a child from a dying Krypton, Supergirl was sent out from Argo City as a teenager. She became trapped in suspended animation until she finally arrived on Earth, where she soaked up a ton of solar radiation. Now yes, Supergirl is powerful, but there is a more powerful alternate version of her in the form of Power Girl. Power Girl has all the powers and abilities of Kryptonian and is pretty much just like Supergirl, with a major difference being she is older than her counterpart, and therefore Karen Starr, Power Girl, is far more powerful. Over the years she has evolved again and again to fit the continuity, but she's still considered one of the strongest DC superheroes. Power Girl has been able to knock out Superman in just one punch when she was needed to. She can stand up to Supergirl and even Wonder Woman in the heat of combat, and she's even been able to beat up someone as powerful as Darkseid. Number 7. Shazam. Billy Batson is just a wee lad who, thanks to the wizard Shazam, could transform into a powerful magical hero named Captain Marvel, or if you prefer, just Shazam. By saying his magic word, he gained an array of attributes including the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. Shazam has proven himself to be nearly as strong as Superman, with the two having fought to a draw many times, with Shazam actually having an edge in the form of his magical abilities. Shazam defeated foes as powerful as Black Adam multiple times and went pound for pound, shot for shot with godlike people such as Hercules and the Spectre. And that's before we even get into Jokerized Shazam or even pre-Crisis Shazam, who had basically unlimited strength. Like so much so that he pulled the Earth back into spinning again. I don't know how it stopped spinning, it seems kind of like it would be impossible, but comic books, okay? He's been shown to be as strong enough to move planets and survive nearly the same amount of stuff as Superman, so I'm gonna place him here comfortably. Number 6. Wonder Woman. Gifted with the powers of the gods, Wonder Woman has many of the same abilities Superman possesses, including strength, speed, and durability. However, Wonder Woman's Amazonian training sets her a little apart as an amazing warrior. It's been debated for years whether Diana could beat Superman in a fight, and while she's shown to be capable of hurting him at the least, she doesn't have the same raw amount of power. Instead, Wonder Woman dominates her opponents through a combination of her special abilities, superior tactics, and special equipment given to her by the gods. But she has been elevated beyond this. When Diana was empowered with the World Forge and the anti-crisis energy at the end of Doom War / during Death Metal, she had enough power to shake stars and phase throughout time through sheer strength. She had displayed the ability to shrink an entire planet and was able to link everyone together and restored their memories as one history, as in all of DC's continuity. She has cosmic awareness, she's able to see multiple events during the war against the Batman who laughs at once, as well as precognition and retrocognition. She was crazy powerful for that time. Number 5. Superman Prime. The Kal-El, who lived to the 853rd century, survived as long as he did by literally becoming the living extension of the sun. He left the Earth somewhere in the late 21st century when everyone he cared about died, and traversed the entire DC multiverse going beyond time and space, and has been said to have reached as far as heaven and hell themselves. He was created by Grant Morrison and Val Semeiks and first appeared in DC 1,000,000 number 4 in 1998. Now, this version of Superman has pretty much all of the same general powers of his normal self, only Superman Prime remained in Earth's sun for 15,000 years, increasing his abilities to immeasurable levels. He is known to dwarf the might of even the massively powerful Kal Kent, who is himself more powerful than the gravitational pull of a collapsing star and is multiple times faster than the speed of light. But he is still kinda just Superman who can do a hell of a lot by just strengthening the heck out of it. Number 4. Elaine Belloq. Bet you weren't expecting to see this girl here. But Elaine Belloq is the successor to the throne of heaven, and that's quite something in my opinion. Elaine has got the powers of atomic manipulation, magic, immortality, omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. While you may not expect it, she is one of the strongest inhabitants of the DC universe. Compared to other characters on this list, Elaine is a newer addition to the DC canon as she first appeared in Lucifer number 4 in September of 2000. But despite that, she has quickly climbed the ranks of DC's most formidable characters, and that's before she gains even more power after Fenrir the Wolf de-lifes her father, effectively making her the ruler of heaven after the presence departs. Since she isn't really a hero and is more kind of just like both good and bad, she does align good more than not, and I found it kinda hard to find a proper place to put her on this list, so I'm gonna go with 4, and we'll suffer the consequences of my decision. Number 3. Captain Atom. Nathaniel Atom was transformed into Captain Atom in the 60s after being semi-forced to participate in a potentially fatal experiment sitting at ground zero of a nuclear explosion encased in an alien metal. The explosion didn't kill him though. What it did do was bond the alien metal to his flesh, giving him superpowers and throwing him 20 so years forward into the present day. The alien metal gave him incredible abilities such as flight, matter manipulation, energy manipulation, time manipulation, energy absorption, telepathy, spatial manipulation, quantum manipulation, force field creation, time travel, magic, and mind manipulation, and control of the quantum field. These powers have let him perform some insane feats, like creating a universe within the quantum field and later destroying that universe, fighting Superboy Prime, easily defeating a team composed of multiple versions of Atom, before absorbing them and creating an explosion powerful enough to destroy a universal space-time continuum. He is truly an insanely strong being, and I would be ashamed to not include him on this list. Number 2. The Spectre. One of the most powerful beings in the DC universe is the Spectre. He is the biblical god's spirit of vengeance. He blesses whoever his host is with nearly unlimited magical potential, flight, invisibility, and intangibility. The Spectre can inflict death with a glance, revive dead men, materialize in multiple locations simultaneously. He has molecular reconstruction. He can heal wounds with a touch and can teleport as well as alter his size, implying he has matter manipulation abilities. The power of the Spectre is so great it needs a human host to keep him in check, which doesn't really make sense. Jim Corrigan, Hal Jordan, and Crispus Allen have each taken control of the spirit of vengeance in order to enact their own versions of justice onto the world. One of the Spectre's most impressive physical feats is the fact he could engage the Anti-Monitor in hand-to-hand combat for control of all creation. It's hard to find heroes more powerful than the Spectre, but there is one. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. When I began to look up just what John Osterman, otherwise known as Dr. Manhattan's powers and feats were, well, the list could kinda take up nearly half the length of this video. So let's go through some of them, shall we? After he was destroyed and reconstituted from the atomic experiment gone wrong, John has no need for food, sleep, or oxygen, and no longer ages and can regenerate from any injury. He has nigh omniscience and possesses an understanding of the workings of the universe on a cosmic scale. He has reality warping and matter manipulation powers, allowing him to end literally everything, which he foresaw himself doing, so he obviously has precognition even as far as a millennium, and can even see alternate futures. He has causality and time manipulation, which allowed him to return the metaverse to how it was before his interference and remove 10 years from the universe's timeline, creating the New 52. He obviously has time travel, which he's used to travel back in time and save Jor-El right before Krypton's destruction. John experiences all the reboots in DC continuity, and yet he remains unaffected, and additionally, John exists in every timeline all at once, meaning that he has duplication and dimensional travel abilities as well. He possesses elemental manipulation, creating a ring of blue fire, producing an oxygen field, creating water, and producing electricity. Saying he has enhanced senses is kind of an understatement, as he can read atoms, sense tachyons, knew someone didn't have cancer with a glance, and heard a heartbeat from someone else's womb. He can phase through things, create human life, made plants grow, teleports an entire crowd of people away. He has instantly analyzed and learned magic after being attacked with it, and absorbed energy from a Green Lantern ring and absorbed magical attacks. Dr. Manhattan is more than a god.
Number 10. Tiamat. While there is a character named Tiamat in the Prime Earth continuity who is quite different, the version of Tiamat we're discussing here once claimed to have been worshipped as a goddess, and was an enemy to Aquaman, likely belonging to the Anunkai, gods and goddesses who were worshipped in ancient Mesopotamia and who were the children of the sky god Anu. Tiamat battled Aquaman in his 90s series a few times and also appeared in War of the Gods, where she did battle against Aquaman again, representing the Babylonian hierarchy of gods and goddesses. Number 9. Harmonia. Harmonia is known as the goddess of harmony and concord. Being that we have the Greek pantheon in the DC universe, those well versed in Greek mythology probably won't be too surprised to see that she too exists among the gods and goddesses there. But those who are less familiar with, the whole of Greek mythology probably didn't even know about her at all. Harmonia would also definitely be lesser known among DC fans, as she only appears a few times in the comics. Still, she has been around since the 80s and is known for being the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite over at DC, which also aligns with one of her prominent origins from Greek mythology, where she's the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite. According to Greek mythology, Harmonia was the keeper of a cursed necklace, which was passed down through generations, and either was unlucky or was cursed because it held within it her power. And I imagine that it's like, if you get the necklace, then it's like you now have her power, but you're not supposed to. It's kind of weird though, because you'd think like harmony wouldn't be a bad power to have. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you haven't already, be sure to go over on Facebook and give us a follow. It really helps us out here at the channel and we really appreciate it. Number 8. Ishtar. DC taps into a lot of different realms when it comes to the widespread realms that their gods cover. One such god, or goddess I suppose I should say, is Ishtar. Ishtar actually hails from Mesopotamia, specifically being a prominent figure in the Babylonian Empire. She exists in the New Earth continuity, and while she isn't predominantly featured in DC mainstream books, she is a character who appears in the Vertigo line of comics in The Sandman. Here we learn that Ishtar was also once the lover of destruction, one of Dream's siblings and a member of the Endless, themselves also gods who represent major ideas and concepts that rule over life and death in the earthly realm. Number 7. Ia. You may have been familiar with Quat, but did you know about Ia, his twin brother? Ia is the identical twin brother of the sun god Quat. He made his first appearance alongside his brother in Future State Superman/Wonder Woman issue number 1. While he doesn't take as active a role in that series as his brother does, I'm hoping that as Yara Flor continues to develop and grow as a character in the DC universe, that there is a good chance we could see more of the Brazilian pantheon of gods, Ia included. Yara Flor taking up the mantle of Wonder Woman and her existence as a hero was what helped to bring back the belief in the gods of Brazil, and it would be cool to see more of the moon and sun god brotherly duo as well as all the other gods. We don't get to learn too much of what Ia is capable of, as we only see him briefly in Future State, but gods who represent the moon, such as the Greek Artemis or her Roman counterpart Diana, are generally known for being powerful, full of wisdom, and sometimes a little bit of mystery. They also tend to be twin siblings of the god that represents the sun, which obviously is quite fitting here. Number 6. Thor. Although Thor is more thought of as a Marvel hero, he is a Norse god and technically comes with the free IP, so of course DC has their own version of this character, and has depicted the God of Thunder a few different ways across labels and series. Thor made his first appearance in DC Comics back in 1946 in Comic Cavalcade issue 17, where he actually played a somewhat antagonistic role. Odin in fact also appears here in the Wonder Woman story therein, titled The Valkyries Pray. In fact, he wants to try and make Wonder Woman into one of his Valkyries and believes that she might indeed be fit to serve him. I feel like Wonder Woman's gonna be like, nah, I'm good. I got some gods. I'm good. Number 5. Hel. Just as there is a Thor in the DC universe, there is also a Hel. In the Marvel universe, we know Hel as Hela. She is the daughter of Loki in the comics, Thor's niece, and is the banished sister of Loki and Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the DC universe, she is also the daughter of Loki and mainly appears in Sandman Presents the Thessaliad. At least, her new Earth mythological version does. There's also a villain known as Hel from Axis America, real name Helen Shepard, and a character named Hel in the Prime Earth continuity, who's a Kryptonian villain. So there's a lot of Hels running around. In Norse mythology, Hel is normally known as the ruler of the underworld. Number 4. Delirium. Delirium is a family member of the Endless. She is one of the youngest family members and was once known as Delight. I actually did a Delirium cosplay a short while ago, and while quite a few were fans of Sandman that saw it and loved the look, others did not even know who Delirium was, although a lot of them still loved the look, which was nice. So of course I thought her a fitting addition to this list. Delirium once represented the spark of happiness, joy, and innocence as Delight, but now represents insanity and lucidity in the world. She can make you mad just by wishing it or gazing at you, and often to her this is a gift that she bestows on those who she favors. But insanity is also something she uses to punish those that displease her. Needless to say, she is not necessarily a member of the Endless that you would want to cross, but nor would you want to be rewarded by her. Aside from bringing madness with her wherever she goes, she can also create beings and bring inanimate objects to life and alter her own appearance based on mood. When she has to become the voice of reason, her eyes will typically be the same color, though they are normally each different colors. Generally one is blue and one is green, but which eyes are which color tend to constantly shift as well. Number 3. Zonas. You might know about Darkseid, who belongs to the new gods, but do you know about Zonas, who belongs to the old gods? After all, for there to be new gods, there had to have been old gods, right? Zonas is one of the old gods and is in fact believed to have been the last of the old gods. He was known as the god of evil, or Yuga Khan. At one point he wielded anti-life, claiming it was what allowed him to actually resurrect the old gods, and is the original one to wield Omega Beams. Zonas ended up being trapped in the Source, and even after escaping that prison and attempting to destroy all of creation, was defeated and then imprisoned there once more. Number 2. Upside Down Man. I'm not quite sure if we consider Upside Down Man a god in the DC universe, but what I do know is that he is the dark reflection of Hecate, who is quite dark herself, so that's saying something. And she is considered to be a goddess and a powerful witch, so I think we can consider Upside Down Man to be at a god level. And of course Upside Down Man is also a powerful magic user. Hecate was the first creature to be born to magic, and Upside Down Man came into existence about the same time or shortly thereafter. Fearing the horror of this magical monster, Hecate actually basically banished Upside Down Man, cutting him off from the world and the other members of the other kind, who later were let back into the world during the events of the second Justice League Dark series. His magic is particularly strong because he pulls it straight from the source, as in the source of all existence, energy, and things in the universe. Number 1. Death. While fans of the Sandman series may be very familiar and huge fans of Death, because honestly everyone loves this character, a lot of people haven't read the Sandman series yet and do not know this character, or haven't listened to it yet, or haven't seen the show yet. I mean, the show isn't out yet. Still waiting on that. I really wanted to give her our top spot because not only is she super powerful and of course a little bit more niche, but while many people know of Mistress Death from Marvel, not as many people know about DC's Death, who is also a lady, and I think that is a crying shame because honestly, Death from Vertigo and DC is just a cooler character overall. Sorry Mistress Death, I love you, but I love the Endless version of Death even more. I like DC's version more, I know. Death will likely become more loved by the mainstream when she appears in Netflix's The Sandman series, but until then, she can just be our best kept secret. Except not now for you, because she's on this list, so now you know. She is not the oldest of the Endless, but she is the second oldest. Her elder brother Destiny is the only one that's actually older than her.
Starting us off today is a little guy who goes by the name Dr. Psycho. Now, Wonder Woman, being a warrior-bound Amazon, sometimes daughter of Zeus, is one tough lady, and as you'd expect, a good chunk of her opponents are equally, if not more, physically intimidating and pack one heck of a punch. And then there's Dr. Psycho. Dr. Psycho is not physically intimidating at all. He is 3'9" with no kind of super strength. But what Dr. Psycho lacks in physicality, he makes up for in being absolutely psychotic, but also one of the strongest telepaths on the planet. Psycho can match up to Martian Manhunter in terms of his telepathic prowess, and can control multiple different minds with his powers at the same time. On top of that, he is just so incredibly sadistic. When combined with that absolute power, he can cause a bad day for even someone as capable as Wonder Woman. And before we move on, I'm curious, who are your favorite underappreciated villains in not just comics, but in any form of media? Let me know down in the comments below. But next up on the docket for today is Lord Deathman. The Japanese crime boss known as Lord Deathman has battled Batman both in American comics and in Japanese manga, using his powers to seemingly overcome death itself, able to rise from the grave no matter what his injuries are. In his first appearance in Batman 180 in May 1966, he passed away 3 times using a yogi technique to appear passed away before the final conflict, which saw him actually get struck by lightning and go on to the pearly gates. But since then, he has actually gained the real power to come back from the grave, but at the cost of having a bare-boned skull for a head. His regenerative abilities are so powerful that his fluids are used to create the infamous Lazarus pits that Ra's al Ghul uses to stay young and immortal. One of the first ways Batman defeated Lord Deathman with his new powers is honestly a little out of character for the Crusader. He threw Lord Deathman off of a building into the path of an armored car, which took the criminal down just long enough for Catwoman to lock him in a safe, and then he was shot out into space, and he still somehow came back. Next up is Rogal Zar. Rogal Zar is basically an alien warlord who was actually created by the papa of Superman, Jor-El. Rogal was responsible for destroying Krypton along with Empress Gandello of the Trillium Collective. He went on to later invade the Fortress of Solitude, and he destroyed the shrunken Kryptonian city of Kandor. Now, following a series of battles with Superman and Supergirl, the pair were only able to come out on top when the Girl of Steel used a Phantom Zone projector to send Zar to the Phantom Zone. Now, all of that is pretty impressive, but what really sold a lot of people on his actual raw power was later on, when Rogal escaped from the Phantom Zone, leading an army of criminals, including General Zod, who then turned on him. He did battle with Superman, Supergirl, General Zod, John Kent, and even Crypto the dog, all at the same time, until the Thanagarians showed up and put Zar in permanent stasis. Clifford Smek was a participant in a government experiment which caused him to tap into the quantum field, which allowed him to then manipulate dark matter. Now, we have no idea what that really means because we don't even really know what dark matter is, but in DC Comics, the dark matter in Major Force's body allows him to do incredible things like absorb energy, fly, regenerate, and even create light constructs like a Green Lantern can. Another side effect of all this concentrated energy inside of him means that he will go off like a nuclear boom boom if he is cut. That on its own is a huge power boost, simply because now, as a result, most superheroes can't even risk fighting Major Force, just in case they cut him. But then, on top of that, even if he does go off, ripping apart his own body on an atomic level, the dark matter that he controls will just put Major Force back together again. And that's not even everything. Not only is Major Force a physical threat, but he is also, just to top it off, a psychological genius. Simply by talking to the Green Lantern Kyle Rayner, Major Force convinced the superhero to give up his own power ring, the source of his power, and one of the most dangerous things in the universe. Prometheus is going to be up next on our list today, and heroes and villains with no powers always seem to be some of the most powerful. It's kind of strange. Prometheus, after seeing his criminal parents pass away at the hands of the police, he vows a vendetta on any form of justice, a vendetta that would push him to be able to defeat the entire Justice League single-handedly. He shot the Martian Manhunter with a dart that turned his powers against him and set him on fire. He infected Steel's armor with a computer virus which commanded the suit to damage the Watchtower. He hypnotized the Huntress into unconsciousness, attacked Green Lantern with a neural chaff that rendered his ring useless, useless, he trapped the angel Zariel in limbo, tricked the Flash into believing that he had planted motion-sensitive devices that would just go off if the Flash used his powers, and he defeated Batman in hand-to-hand combat, which is nuts. His origin is very similar to Batman's. After his parents were dispatched from the mortal plane, he would travel the globe training and becoming the ultimate combat machine. But he also attended all the top universities, learning as much as he could. He eventually set up a base in the Ghost Zone, and from here he built an armor that could download information on any opponent's fighting style, kind of reminiscent of Taskmaster's ability from Marvel Comics. He is kind of crazy capable, but his vendetta on any kind of justice, plus his Batman likeness, just kind of makes him a little weird to me. Next up, we got Tattooed Man. Abel Tarrant was a sailor who discovered a strange chemical that could bring drawings to life. Now, realizing the potential this chemical had, he inked his entire body with it and became the supervillain Tattooed Man. While performing crimes, his ink actually comes to life to attack his enemies. Over the years, he has fought superheroes with tattoos of tigers, cars, ships, monsters, bears, fire, planes, and dinosaurs. He can even use a tattoo of wings to give himself the ability to fly. Tattoo Man has never been considered a super serious threat, but I think he should be, because he is only limited by his imagination. There is nothing stopping him from creating a tattoo of a nuclear boom boom or even a black hole. If he inked kryptonite onto his body, there's no reason that he couldn't take down Superman if he wanted to. Next up today is Dr. Sivana. It's almost ironic that some of the biggest and the strongest superheroes find their adversaries in the form of kind of creepy, somewhat old, bald men. Superman has Lex Luthor, who isn't old, but he is bald. And then for Shazam, he's got Dr. Sivana, who is indeed both old and bald. Sivana is not the kind of guy who's going to be engaging in a battle of fisticuffs, but that's fine because his strength is in the brain department. The villain doesn't have a ton of monumental feats, but one of his best comes to us in the Multiversity Thunderworld adventures. In the opening pages of this comic, Sivana literally attacks the Rock of Eternity, which is the source of Shazam's powers and the home base for the wizard Shazam. This place has never ever been attacked for an eternity, and Sivana attacked it with a bigger Rock of Eternity, which is weird. He had his own Shazam-like team of superpowered children and his own multiversal duplicates helping him along. He manages to take the wizard Shazam prisoner and mine the rock for its own power, granting himself his own monstrous Shazam-like form, and it's crazy. Now, with a name like Psycho Pirate, it's easy to not take this villain too seriously, but Roger Hayden is quite the capable guy. Hayden wears a faceplate called the Medusa Mask, which can control the emotions of anyone nearby, and he staunchly believed that this was his ticket to riches and power. When heroes or the police try to stop his crime sprees, Psycho Pirate just uses his mask to overwhelm his opponents with shame, guilt, depression, or any other number of emotions. He can also make a person develop a phobia of anything he wants them to be afraid of. Like, in his debut issue, he made Dr. Fate, one of the most powerful magic users in DC Comics, develop Citophobia, aka the fear of food. And then he attacked Fate with a pizza. That's amazing! Psycho Pirate has played a huge part in some of the biggest DC comics ever, including Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crisis. If you needed more proof, Amanda Waller, the head of the Task Force X program, aka the Suicide Squad, has claimed that Psycho Pirate is one of the scariest beings in the universe, calling him, quote, a man who could make gods go mad, a man who could make the mad gods sane again. And in our second place today is Extant. Henry Hall, the brother of Donald Hall, aka Dove, started his comic book life as Hawk, being empowered alongside his brother by a Lord of Chaos and a Lord of Order who had fallen in love. Now, Henry represented chaos. Hawk and Dove together were vigilantes and were even part of the Teen Titans for a time. After the Crisis on Infinite Earths, however, in a dystopian near future that was home to a time-traveling hero called Wave Rider, Henry had become an oppressive tyrant named Monarch who ended up going back in time and fighting the modern-day heroes before he was wiped out by the Henry of the present day. I hope you can follow that because it was kind of hard for me to follow when I read it. Present-day Henry then took up the Monarch title and mantle in the modern day, becoming a villain. Now eventually, Monarch stole the time powers from Wave Rider and then allied himself with Parallax, aka the corrupted Hal Jordan, and he took on the new villain name of Extant. While he was the front for Parallax's scheme to recreate the multiverse using alternate timelines, he tried to alter time to give himself an entire army of superheroes and found himself battling all the greatest members of the JSA, and Extant tore through them all like they were a joke, and he even used his temporal powers to age up the members of the JSA that he didn't just straight up send to the afterlife. And lastly today, I think anyone who hasn't heard of this villain before would be forgiven. When you think of the most fearsome villains, specifically the villains of Captain Marvel, otherwise known as Shazam, you may not first think about the 7-inch long sentient worm from Venus known as Mr. Mind. This diabolically evil mind-controlling worm, after the events of Infinite Crisis, would cocoon himself and then emerge as a massive monstrosity capable of manipulating reality, consuming universes, and traveling through time and space. He was described as, quote, eating years and events from this universe's history, altering the Earth with every flap of his giant wings. It took a combined effort from Booster Gold, Supernova, and Skeets to defeat Mr. Mind by trapping him inside Skeets' shell, which was fortified by the Suspendium. Then, Booster Gold threw Skeets through time with the help of Supernova to the day that he was first discovered on Earth by Dr. Sivana, and then he's trapped in a time loop forever. So they didn't actually end him or defeat him, they just trapped him. This all-powerful, mind-controlling 7-inch long worm.
Number 10, Red Canary. On his part 1, AJ talked about Black Canary, who I personally really wanted to also discuss on this list. So because of that, I decided I'd tell you about another Canary adjacent character. This one is an up-and-comer who might not be super powerful yet, but who you might want to watch out for when it comes to her potential as a hero. Red Canary was inspired by the hero Black Canary to become herself a hero in the same bird style and title. As far as we know right now, her name is simply Sienna. She took up the mantle after the death of the Justice League, believing them to actually have died, and thinking the world needed new heroes to replace the League. However, of course, Black Canary and the other heroes would return, they weren't really dead, but Red Canary has chosen to stay on and fight as a hero still. When it comes to her skills and powers currently, she's an experienced martial artist, which honestly is super street level just in and of itself. Red Canary also fights with the Screama sticks like Nightwing, but her sticks were stolen from a villain and as such are also kinda high tech. Number 9, Jonah Hex. Jonah Hex initially started out as a hero from the Wild West. He made his first appearance in the 1972 comic All-Star Western issue number 10. He was introduced as a famed bounty hunter who gained prominence at first during the frontier days in the 19th century. Jonah is not your typical hero, but is instead an anti-hero who is killed many times over, but attempts to stick to his own personal moral code, fighting back against his own violent instincts to keep himself in check when need be. He also wears a Confederacy uniform because he actually did fight in the American Civil War, but he actually wears it to like atone for his past sins because he sees that as like a bad thing. So in case you were wondering why he's wearing that, that's why he's wearing that. It's a statement. It's not him actually believing in what the Confederates were fighting for during the Civil War. Number 8, Black Lightning. Black Lightning is a hero that we truly do not talk about enough. Initially, Jefferson Pierce appeared in the 1977 Black Lightning comic in issue number 1. He was a vigilante who typically could be found fighting crime in the inner city. Pierce himself by day is a school teacher and principal, but at night, he becomes the vigilante Black Lightning. Jefferson can create raw electricity and use it to fight crime by emitting blasts, creating shields which boost his strength, and using it to teleport even. He also has a healing factor. Not only is Jefferson powerful when it comes to his superpowers, but he's also studied with Batman in hand-to-hand combat and is considered himself an accomplished athlete. He also brings his own everyday skills of teaching to the table, which makes him a pretty decent leader, I would say, when he needs to be, and also means he is quite educated and smart when it comes to his knowledge base. Number 7, Detective Chimp. While Detective Chimp has dabbled in the realm of the spiritual and mystical, he is also ultimately a private detective, which puts him pretty much at street level by default. However, as is clearly evident when it comes to this list, this does not mean the Bobo T chimpanzee should be underestimated. underestimated. He may be a chimp, but he also possesses one of the most gifted minds on all of planet Earth. Bobo is immortal, granted this power by the magical fountain of youth that he once drank from. It also gave him supreme intelligence, allowing him to communicate with and understand humans as well. When it comes to his detective skills, he is on par with heroes like Batman, making him basically one of the best detectives in the entire world. He also has some skills when it comes to combat, even if it isn't his forte per se, and like I said, he has some knowledge of the occult and magic as well. Over his life, he has possessed the Sword of Night and the Helmet of Fate. Number 6. Static. Static is based in Dakota City, and this is often where we see him operate when it comes to him fighting crime. Initially, Static was a part of Milestone Comics, but this comic line ended up getting bought by DC, and recently even saw its line of comics within DC relaunched. Yay! Static himself has been a part of the DC universe since before that relaunch though, although with it, Static himself, along with the other heroes from Milestone, also saw a revamp somewhat of their origin stories and their looks. Instead of it being a gang war that Virgil was caught up in when his powers activated, he was instead attending a Black Lives Matter protest with his friends. When experimental tear gas was deployed in an attempt to stifle the protest, the substance, which, like I said, was experimental, resulted in him and others attending getting superpowers. This event, like in the original comic series, would become known as the Big Bang, with Static being referred to as a bang baby because this is where he gets his electromagnetic and electrokinetic powers from. Number 5. Blue Beetle. While everything may feel like it's coming up hamey with the release of DC and Warner Brothers' Blue Beetle film rapidly approaching us, Ted Kord was Blue Beetle prior to Hamey's appearance, and even now, he still is Blue Beetle. Hamey is also awesome, but I thought I would inform those who may not know about this about the Blue Beetles who have actually come before. Ted Kord did die in the New Earth continuity, but I believe he is still alive and well in the Prime Earth continuity, which is the current main continuity when it comes to DC Comics. Ted Kord as Blue Beetle is a genius who is even on a similar level to Batman when it comes to his own ingenuity and inventing skills. Not only that, but he is also a skilled computer hacker, an acrobat, a martial artist, and he has experience piloting. And that's on top of all of the stuff his suit can just do by itself, so yeah. Pretty impressive. Number 4. Nightwing. One of my all-time favorite heroes, especially lately with Bruno Redondo and Tom Taylor working on the amazing Nightwing book. Goodness, what an amazing time to be alive and be a Nightwing fan right now. When it comes to Nightwing, you can typically find him swinging above the streets of Bloodhaven, which tends to be where he is based ever since he decided to move out from Batman's shadow and become his own hero, with Dick Grayson moving from Robin to Nightwing. As Nightwing, Grayson is basically like a more optimistic version of Batman, except that instead of being a millionaire, at least not normally he's a millionaire, he tends to be more a person of the people. In fact, he even struggles sometimes to pay rent like most people do. And even recently, when he did inherit a massive sum of funds following Alfred's death, he decided to use this newfound fortune to actually fix up the city of Bloodhaven, promising to give pretty much all of it away through investing in various sites and programs that can better help Bloodhaven fight against the crime and corruption it faces and its residents face daily. I just love that. I love how Dick is like, I just got a bunch of money, I'm not even gonna keep it, I'm just gonna pretty much give it all away. I'm still gonna stay a man of the people. Number 3. Hellblazer. Also known as John Constantine, the original Hellblazer from Vertigo was very much a street level hero. And yeah, back in the day, this was one of the names that he went by, Hellblazer. Well, he was more of an anti-hero, I guess I should say, but I doubt we'll ever do a top 10 most powerful street level anti-heroes in DC Comics because that would be a pretty niche list, even for us. So I figured if I wanted to talk about John on a list like this, now was basically my chance, so I'm taking it. Constantine initially started out as basically an occult-based detective. He answered calls for help around London and did his best to sort out supernatural matters that were often extremely dark and challenging problems to solve. Seriously, go back and read the original Hellblazer series, it is an experience. While there are likely smarter detectives out there when it comes to their brain power, John is probably the most ruthless detective we have over at DC Comics. He's very wily. He's willing to do all sorts of questionable things in order to fix a problem, and even will put his and others' souls on the line when he feels it's necessary. Underline others, because I feel like John also really loves to barter with other people's souls and lives. Number 2. Batman. Batman is my favorite hero out there, so of course I have to include him on this list. He is after all the ultimate street level hero, which might feel weird to say considering how big of a hero he has become when it comes to his fame. But at the same time, Batman started out just patrolling the streets of Gotham. And Gotham has always been his city. Sure, he's gone international, he even started his own international network of Bat-themed or affiliated heroes with Batman Inc., and Batman has even gone to space and traveled through time. But at the end of the day, Gotham is his home, and it's the place he always returns to. When it comes to some of his most iconic stories, this is where they take place, and the city is what Batman is often fighting to protect against all odds. Number 1. Danny the Street. Danny the Street has to be the ultimate street level hero, because, well, he's literally a street. Danny the Street made his first appearance in Doom Patrol in the 90s in issue number 35 of the second volume. Danny himself is a sentient street that can teleport anywhere around the world. He controls what appears on the street and who he decides to house there, with of course the street literally being him, often providing a safe haven for the outcasts of society, especially those who are outcast because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. But not always. He takes all kinds of outcasts, I would say.
And at 10, Midnighter. Midnighter, alongside his future husband Apollo, was part of the top secret Stormwatch team created by the first Weatherman, Henry Bendix. Nobody but Bendix himself knew of the team's existence. Bendix built them as superhumans, and when they donned their costumes and spoke their code names, their previous identities ceased to exist. Midnighter has the power to predict how a situation will happen before it starts. This allows him to run through a given situation millions of times in his mind, instantly covering every possible result before his first move is even made. He uses this information to predict the actions and or reactions of others, counteracting their moves almost before they even think to make them, effectively making Midnighter the greatest tactician in the history of mankind. Basically the good guy version of the Thinker. That's pretty cool. He could be Batman just because he knew every single way it would happen. And at 9, the Atomic Knight. The Atomic Knights appeared in every third issue of Strange Adventures in the early 1960s, beginning with number 117 and running through number 160. In all, there were 15 early 1960s Atomic Knight stories created by writer John Broome and artist Murphy Anderson. They were a band of heroes living in and protecting the post-apocalyptic future of 1992. Yep, at that point it was the future. Following the catastrophic Hydrogen War of 1986, a petty tyrant named the Black Baron ruled a small section of the Midwestern United States with an iron fist. He was opposed by Sergeant Gardner Grail of the Atomic Knights, who wore medieval suits of armor that were impervious to the Baron's energy weapons, the armor having been irradiated in the war. Gardner Grail also has precognition and wears a suit of armor that grants him enhanced speed, strength, endurance, and lets him blast energy, as well as being adaptable to other technology. And at 8, Akrita. Andrea's father was Bernardo Rojas, once a renowned leader in Central America who researched pre-Hispanic cultures at a university in Mexico. She lived along with her cat named Zapata, named after one of the revolutionary leaders in Mexico. Akrita specialized in striking against organized crime. Every time she caught a perpetrator or helped avert a tragedy, she cited a literary quotation, or if she had the time, painted graffiti insulting or challenging the local authorities, which might hint at her being a bit of an anarchist, which honestly I'm kinda into. This character seemed to be kind of a Mexican Batman, and despite her anarchist tendencies, she often worked with another 2 Mexican superheroes, Iman and El Muerto. Together with these 2 allies and Superman, she once saved Mexico and the world from the total destruction from a bad guy group trying to channel the powers inherent to the ley lines of Earth to accomplish their goals. So good on ya, Andrea. Good on you. And at 7, Jack-O-Lantern. The first Jack-O-Lantern is Daniel Cormac of Ireland, who was born to a poor farmer who was granted a magical lantern by an Irish fairy. Yep, that's how we're going with this. Cormac is a member of the Global Guardians, an international group of superheroes. His first recorded mission in Super Friends number 8 was to help Green Lantern dismantle a bomb in Ireland. Both Daniel Cormac and Marvin Noronza, the second Jack-O-Lantern, have a mystical lantern that gives them the power of flight, flame projection, teleportation, illusion casting, enhanced strength, and the ability to just create fogs. The power of the lantern is also its weakest at noon and gradually increases until its peak at midnight. Liam McHugh, the third Jack-O-Lantern, found a way to internalize the powers of the mystical lantern and no longer needs to carry it. So yeah. And at 6, Apollo. Essentially the Wildstorm universe's answer to Superman, Apollo is now technically a part of the DC superhero universe, like Wildstorm ever since the 2 universes converged following the events of Flashpoint. Apollo possesses many of the same powers as Superman, but with a few notable differences. Like Kal-El, Apollo possesses superhuman strength, flight, and near invulnerability. If you want some clarification as to just how impervious to damage he is, he's able to walk on the surface of the sun. Apollo also has the ability to shoot lasers from his eyes, derived from solar energy, but unlike Superman, and he can also release this energy from other parts of his body, including his hands and mouth. This dude can fire lasers from his mouth. He uses hyper beam in real life. His only real weakness is that he relies on the sun for his powers, so if he doesn't get enough exposure, his powers will diminish, but hey, at least Apollo isn't vulnerable to kryptonite. Halfway through into number 5, Swamp Thing. In a secret facility located in the Louisiana swamplands, scientist Alec Holland and his wife Linda invented a bio-restorative formula that would solve any nation's food shortage problems. Ferret and Bruno, thugs working for Nathan Ellery, barged into Alec's lab, knocked him out, and planted a bomb in the facility. Alec woke up just as the bomb exploded, and in the flames he ran into the swamp. His body had been drenched in the bio-restorative formula, and this affected the plant life of the swamp, imbuing it with Alex's consciousness and memories. The newly conscious plant life then formed a semblance of a human form and rose up from the bog as the Swamp Thing, the latest in a long line of Earth elementals created when the green was in need of protection. His body is composed of sentient vegetable matter. He has the ability to nourish himself, superhuman strength, elemental control, chlorokinesis, astral projection, biofission, immortality, regeneration, size alteration, resurrection, you name it, and Swampy can do it. Swampy away! And in 4, Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle was scot-free, the god of escape in the New Gods mythology. A Genesian raised on Apokolips, he defected with his lover Big Barda to Earth, where he used the skills he learned in escapology, both as a performance artist and in the Justice League of America. Originally, the boy scot-free was the son of High Father Isaiah, the ruler of New Genesis. However, as a part of a diplomatic move to stop a destructive war against the planet Apokolips, High Father agreed to an exchange of children with his enemy Darkseid. In doing so, he surrendered scot-free to the care of his enemy while he received his enemy's son Orion. This guy has new god physiology, okay, making him immortal, super strength, super durable, and giving him super agility. Plus, when utilizing his full godly potential, Mr. Miracle wields a cosmic energy field called Alpha Effect, which allows him to transverse through time and space, heal living beings, fully restore creatures back from death, and control energy to an almost boundless degree. Yep, you're on the list. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Jem, son of Saturn. After both his mother and teacher were killed by the White Martians, Jem stole a ship and escaped to Earth, in search of his lover Syra, who had fled there earlier. He arrives in Harlem, New York and is befriended by an orphan named Luther Mankin. After a series of adventures with and without Luther, Jem eventually found Syra. They all then traveled to New Bok, a red Saturnian colony, but because he refused to take sides in a civil war on New Bok, Jem was disavowed and cast out by both factions. Dispirited, Jem and Luther returned to Earth, and given that Jem is a form of Martian in a sense, his Saturnian physiology gives him flight, metamorphosis, physiokinesis, telekinesis, telepathy, energy projection, superhuman durability, superhuman stamina, and superhuman strength that allows him to match Martian Manhunter blow for blow. So I think this is a pretty worthy number 3. Penultimately, in at number 2, Karate Kid. Karate Kid is actually Val Armour, a superhero from the future and also a member of the Legion of Superheroes. He is a master of every form of martial arts to have ever been developed by the 30th century. The extent of his skill was so great that he could severely damage various types of hard material with a single blow, and was briefly able to hold his own against Superboy through the use of what he called super karate. So he already seems pretty legit. Val Armour was the son of Japanese greatest crime lord Kiaru Nozumi, also known as the Black Dragon. When he was born, his mother, an American secret agent known as Valentina Armour, tried to hide him from his father, but she failed to do so and was killed for her affront. Japan's biggest hero, Sensei Toshiaki, and the White Crane, eventually killed the Black Dragon for his crimes and then adopted the infant Val. He raised Val as if he were his own son and trained him in all manner of martial arts. Val became the youngest warrior ever to earn the title of samurai, and he went on to work for his local shogun. However, after trying his best and failing to please his supervisor, he quit and searched the galaxy for new forms of battle to master. That just goes to show you, people, appreciate your employees, otherwise they're gonna quit and go search the galaxy for new forms of martial arts, okay? And finally, in at number 1, Blue Beetle. Jamie Reyes was a relatively normal high school student from El Paso, Texas. His father ran a garage and his mother was a paramedic, and he had a little sister who was a total brat. Jamie hung out with his 2 best friends, Brenda and Paco, and he acted as like the mediator between the hardworking Brenda and the laid-back Paco. By both Brenda and Paco's accounts, he was a good friend, kind of person who could just let them be themselves and would always make things better. Jamie aimed to help his father out in the garage, but Alberto turned him down, not wanting to see his son grow up too fast. Ted Cord, the second Blue Beetle, had come into possession of the Blue Beetle Scarab, the artifact which had given Dan Garrett, the first Blue Beetle, steal his powers. The Scarab had been presumed destroyed early in Ted's superhero career, but it was discovered intact in a pyramid in the Middle East. This is where Jamie gets his powers as well. What are those powers, you ask? The Scarab can and will use its powers of its own accord. Jamie, however, can override the Scarab if need be, and should Jeremy fall prey to mind-altering power, the Scarab will take control of the armor. So it will act on its own, and basically he's not mind control anymore because it's just the Scarab doing it, not actually him. So yeah, number 1 hands.
At number 10 is Red Hood, by far one of the most captivating and tragic heroes of all time. Initially known as Jason Todd, his journey began as a street punk until Batman took him under his wing, acting as a father figure to the second Robin. Tragedy struck when the Joker mercilessly bashed him one too many times with a crowbar, leaving Batman devastated. But that's not where Jason's story ends. Thanks to either Superboy Prime's reality-altering antics or a little help from the Lazarus Pits, depending on which continuity we're talking about, he was resurrected, bursting out of his own coffin with a deep resentment towards Batman for failing to avenge him. Becoming the infamous anti-hero Red Hood, he adopted the name to taunt Batman, reminding him of his 2 greatest failures: when Batman knocked the original Red Hood into the vat of chemicals and inadvertently creating the Joker, and failing to save Jason Todd. By taking the name Red Hood, Jason is taunting Batman with the fact that his 2 greatest failures are coming back to taunt him. Believing Batman's approach to crime was flawed, Red Hood took matters into his own hands. Working undercover in the criminal underworld, he sought to control crime rather than destroy it. He justified claiming lives when dealing with those who've claimed lives themselves, enacting his own version of justice. The emotional core of Red Hood's character lies in his quest for answers and revenge. He confronted Batman, wanting to know why he spared the Joker after the torment he inflicted on him. In Jason's mind, he found his answer when Batman chose to save the Joker's life. At number 9 is Wildcat. Wildcat is one of DC's most powerful street-level heroes despite having no superpowers. The legacy of feline-themed vigilantes began with Ted Grant, a world-class champion boxer who fights crime using his incredible hand-to-hand combat abilities. Ted's journey as a fighter started early in life when he faced a tough opponent named Billy, who knocked him and his front teeth out after having been distracted by daydreams of his school crush cheering him on. This experience taught Ted the importance of focus in a fight and made him see love itself as nothing more than a distraction. As he grew older, he became a heavyweight boxer, dominating the competition during the day while secretly fighting crime in his off time as the hero known as Wildcat. While his signature fighting style is boxing, Ted is a master martial artist, having trained other iconic heroes like Batman, Black Canary, Green Arrow, and Jay Garrick. Despite his age, Wildcat's stamina and muscle physique remain unmatched. Punches are even capable of ripping shadow demons in two. Furthermore, some comics suggest that he possesses a unique ability to revive himself if he ever passes away, albeit this power is limited to 9 resurrections. Well, 6. Apparently he already lost the first 3. At number 8 is Tim Drake. As the 3rd ever Robin, he assumed the mantle after the tragic demise of Jason Todd. What sets Drake apart from all Robins, however, is his unparalleled detective skills, arguably making him one of the most exceptional sleuths among all who've embraced the Robin role. But Tim's journey didn't end with being Batman's sidekick. He became his own hero, adopting the prefix Red and becoming the Red Robin, continuing his street-level heroics, never losing touch with his roots. Not only did Tim prove his worth as a solo crime fighter, but he also became an invaluable member of renowned teams like the Titans and the Young Justice, solidifying his status not only as one of the greatest street-level heroes, but beyond that, his legacy as one of the best Robins remains intact. At number 7 is The Question. Originally portrayed by Vic Sage, a skilled investigative journalist, The Question is the epitome of a street-level hero. Donning the mask to protect his identity, Sage embarked on a relentless quest to unravel mysteries and expose conspiracies. What's fascinating is that many of his theories, initially considered mere speculation, turned out to be startlingly true. In the captivating storyline 52, Vic Sage sadly met his demise, leading to a crucial passing of the torch. Enter Renee Montagna, a familiar face in Batman comics, who took on the mantle of The Question. Having left Gotham PD, Montagna embraced her new identity, continuing her valiant crusade to safeguard the crime-ridden streets she held dear. But what makes The Question one of the most powerful street-level heroes? It's not about superhuman abilities or flashy powers. Rather, it's the unwavering determination, unyielding intellect, and dogged pursuit of truth that define this character. With both Sage and Montagna bringing their unique skills to the table, The Question navigates the complex web of crime and corruption, making each of them a formidable force in the gritty streets of DC Comics. At number 6 is the Vigilante. Starting off as a lawyer and eventually becoming a judge, Adrian Chase's transformation into a deadly anti-hero was catalyzed by a harrowing tragedy, the the loss of his wife and children to mafia violence. Having lost faith in a judicial system that had failed to bring his family's executioners to justice, he metamorphosized into the vigilante, doling out his unique brand of ruthless justice to the underworld. Chase's relentless pursuit of mob boss Anthony Scarpelli took him deeper into the darkness of vigilantism, culminating in his tragic end when, after several failed attempts to quit vigilantism, he took his own life, inspiring a lineage of relentless executioners to take up his mantle. Throughout history, he's showcased a remarkable tenacity and resourcefulness, exemplifying the true essence of a powerful street-level hero. As a former member of Checkmate and an associate of the Teen Titans, his influence echoes throughout the annals of DC Comics. At number 5 is Damian Wayne. If there's one thing that Bruce gets right, it's raising children to become legitimate, competent, and independent street heroes. And the most recent Robin is closer in skill to Batman than any other, his son, Damian Wayne. Damian's journey to heroism was no walk in the park. With a grandfather as notorious as the assassin Ra's al Ghul, he faced an uphill battle to resist the allure of a darker path. Yet Damian made the conscious choice to align himself with his father Batman, rejecting his darker heritage. Trained by the best, Damian honed his combat skills and tactical genius to perfection, making him an exceptional partner to Batman. His unique bond with the Caped Crusader has instilled in him a sense of discipline and determination, setting him apart from other Robins. In addition to his lineage and training, Damian possesses unique traits. Enhanced by the Al Ghul bloodline, he exhibits superior physical prowess, agility, and resilience. Furthermore, his cunning intellect and fierce determination to protect Gotham City further elevate his status as a truly remarkable street-level hero. With a complex backstory and relentless commitment to justice, Damian Wayne, the fourth boy wonder, undoubtedly earns his place among the most powerful street-level heroes in the captivating world of DC Comics. At number 4 is Rorschach. Walter Kovacs, famously known as Rorschach, is often considered the main protagonist among the ensemble cast of The Watchmen, as it's he who drives most of the plot forward and serves as the series' only narrator. Despite lacking superhuman abilities, Rorschach's unwavering determination and unorthodox methods set him apart. His unhinged demeanor and recklessly audacious approach to combat make him an unpredictable force to reckon with. With his tragically dark past and disillusionment with the flawed justice system, Rorschach becomes a man of fierce conviction, almost bordering on obsession. His relentless pursuit of justice against crime is fueled by a belief that evil is a deeply ingrained sickness that demands eradication. And how does he accomplish this? Through a torrent of punches, demonstrating nearly unparalleled fighting skills. And although he's not physically the toughest Watchman, Rorschach's mental fortitude and audacious tactics make him a formidable and feared figure on the streets, even among superpowered adversaries. His unique blend of madness, conviction, and combat prowess solidifies Rorschach's status as one of DC Comics' most powerful street-level heroes. At number 3 is Nightwing. Starting off as the very first Robin to ever hold the title, Dick Grayson grew to become an adored figure in DC Comics. After his partnership with Batman, he became the iconic Nightwing, carving his path into the superhero landscape. While Batman protected Gotham City, Nightwing found his calling in the neighboring town of Bloodhaven. However, Dick's dynamic skills were not limited to being a vigilante. He also worked as a police officer, adding a unique layer to his work as a crime fighter. This background endowed him with invaluable street-level experience, finally honing his abilities to tackle crime head-on while being closely connected with the communities he served. What's more is that Grayson's Teen Titans tenure further shaped his remarkable capabilities, expanding his heroic toolkit and establishing him as a symbol of hope and inspiration for fellow heroes and citizens alike. With deep-rooted connections, vast experience, and a relentless commitment to justice, Nightwing thrives as a street-level hero on par with his mentor Batman. At number 2 is Green Arrow. Green Arrow, the affluent archer of DC Comics, transcends his privileged upbringing to become one of the most powerful street-level heroes in the DC universe. His unwavering dedication to helping his city sets him apart from many other heroes. Green Arrow's compassionate, bleeding heart heroism drives him to utilize his considerable resources to aid the less fortunate, battling the crime that plagues their neighborhoods. While renowned for his unparalleled archery skills, Green Arrow's hand-to-hand combat abilities are equally exceptional. He's proven his mettle against formidable foes like Deathstroke, showcasing remarkable fighting prowess. Moreover, unlike other heroes, Green Arrow never shies away from acknowledging his mistakes. He confronts his errors head-on, diligently working to rectify them and taking responsibility for his actions. In addition to his unmatched marksmanship, Green Arrow's extensive arsenal of trick arrows grant him a versatile edge in any situation. From explosive to boomerang arrows, his ingenuity knows no bounds. Despite facing various challenges, Green Arrow maintains a balanced life as both a hero and Oliver Queen, retaining his sense of humor and humanity. Comparatively, Batman's life is almost entirely consumed by his crime-fighting mission in Gotham City. While Batman possesses an unparalleled skill set and an impressive bat family, his single-minded dedication leaves little room for personal equilibrium. Conversely, Green Arrow's ability to maintain a balanced life contributes to his resilience as a street-level hero, making him a truly unique and powerful force within the DC Comics universe. And at number 1, it's Batman. If there's one hero in comic books, be it Marvel or DC, that represents the quintessential street-level hero, it's Batman. Since his debut in the 1930s, he's been an emblem of vigilante justice, guarding the alleys of Gotham City from the clutches of the criminal underworld. Batman's rogues gallery consists of adversaries who seek to dominate the streets, from the cunning Penguin and enigmatic Riddler to the two-faced Two-Face and the immortal Ra's al Ghul. However, his most iconic nemesis, the Joker, embodies chaos and anarchy, representing the antithesis of Batman's disciplined approach. But what sets Batman apart is his ability to inspire others to take up the mantle of street vigilantes. As the mentor to numerous heroes like Nightwing, Robin, and Batgirl, he's kicked off an entire lineage of crime-fighting prowess. Batman's legacy endures as the catalyst for a new generation of street-level heroes, making him the undisputed powerhouse of street-level heroes in DC Comics.
In at 10, Catman. I mostly put this on the list because I wanted to joke about Fairly Odd Parents. Thomas Blake, once a wealthy socialite in Gotham City, became a skilled hunter of jungle cats, but squandered his fortune in pursuit of his obsession. Left with nothing, he turned to a life of crime. Considering becoming a vigilante like Batman, he chose a different path later on and became the costumed villain known as Catman. His criminal spree involved stealing cat-themed items and valuables, mirroring his affinity for the creatures he once hunted, and as Catman, he encountered Batman and Robin on multiple occasions, and they eventually figured out his identity, thanks to the intervention of Batwoman. In a desperate attempt to escape capture, Catman deployed a giant cat robot, but the dynamic duo stopped the plans and destroyed the machine. In a final confrontation, Catman was washed away by a river and presumed dead, his criminal career coming to an end. But, I mean, still, Adam West as Catman on Fairly Odd Parents definitely makes him street level. If a kids show can joke about it, then yeah, you're sad. In at 9, Prometheus. Prometheus, born to criminal parents, witnessed their violent demise at the hands of the police, which left them traumatized and turned their hair white from shock. Fueled by a desire for revenge against justice, he took an oath to eradicate all those who stood in his way. Concealing his true name, he became a formidable foe with a plan to wreak havoc on the world. After unleashing devastating devices across numerous cities, causing immense destruction and loss of lives, including Roy Harper's daughter Leanne, Prometheus offered a deal to the Justice League of America. He promised to reveal the device's locations and deactivate them in exchange for his freedom. Reluctantly, the JLA agreed to save innocent lives. However, upon return to his hideout, Prometheus encountered Green Arrow, who sought vengeance for Leanne's death. In a swift confrontation, Green Arrow shot an arrow through Prometheus' head, putting an end to the man's reign of terror. But hey, then it started the whole Trial of Green Arrow storyline, which a lot of people hate. So yeah, that's why he's up higher on the list, because of him. In an 8, Court of Owls. They're a violent cabal who uses architecture and murder to wield political influence throughout the city. Their legend is only told through whispers and a nursery rhyme that bears their name. To carry out their interests, they employ a breed of highly trained assassins known as Talons, and the leaders of the organization appear to be humans wearing owl masks on their faces, because where else would you wear a mask? The rest of the court, on the other hand, are mutated and appear to be actually like human-owl hybrids. Their owl-like distorted faces, long claws, and their eating style seem to prove this, unless they're just very into roleplay, or maybe they're just owl bears, and D&D has been real in the DC universe for ages. The Court of Owls takes notice when billionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne announces plans to rebuild and reshape Gotham City for the future, but is sentenced to death by the group and their assassin, the Talon. They attempt to kill him during a meeting with politician Lincoln March, but they don't, because, you know, he's Batman. They struggle to the top of Wayne Tower, and the Talon survives a fall from the top of it somehow, but Batman begins to investigate and uncovers their whole society and a secret headquarters and how they were established by the Alan Wayne Trust, and it's a whole thing that is just meant to make Batman connected to the corruption in the city. And at 7, Bronze Tiger. Bronze Tiger, also known as Ben Turner, is a master martial artist renowned worldwide for his combat skills. His journey began with Richard Dragon under the guise of O-Sensei, but he later fell victim to the League of Assassins' brainwashing, transforming him into one of its deadliest killers. Despite their programming, Ben eventually broke free from their control, choosing to embrace heroism instead. His childhood in an upper middle class black neighborhood took a dark turn when at age 10 he killed a burglar that was assaulting his parents. Struggling with anger and homicidal urges as all 10-year-olds do, he turns turns to martial arts, seeking discipline and control, but again, his anger persisted, leading him to, become a criminal. Recognizing the dangerous path that he was on, Ben embarked on a journey around the world seeking guidance, and he ends up becoming a hero, but he was a villain, and that's why I'm putting him on this list. Plus, Ben Turner in Arrow is pretty freaking dope, so yeah. And at 6, Huntress. Helena Bertinelli, also known as the Huntress, was once a rogue and vengeful vigilante seeking to destroy her father's criminal empire after he had her fiancé, Michael Stanton, killed. Her paths crossed with Oliver Queen, who intervened to save her from her father's deadly scheme, but realizing that Oliver's different approach to justice didn't really work for her, she left Starling. Later on, Helena returned with a vendetta against her father, who sought protection by cooperating with the authorities, but Oliver tried to stop her again, but she escaped. Because he wouldn't kill her, because he had boinked her. This is all from the TV show, by the way. A year later, she resurfaced when Team Arrow confronted her father again, leading to his ultimate demise, but she wasn't the one to do it, so she was upset about that, because if you want your father to die and you aren't the one who does it, apparently that's a bad thing. In the ensuing chaos, she gets arrested and sent to prison, finally. In the comics, she's like a vigilante hero, but in the show, she was definitely a villain, so that's why I'm putting her on the list, alright? That's why it's the Arrow version. Halfway through into number 5, Condiment King, the best character in all of Batman the Animated Series. The Condiment King, created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini for Batman the Animated Series, is a villain who uses various condiments as his weapons, sometimes capable of causing anaphylactic shock. Yeah, that's right. He's generally used as comic relief within the series. He would make many condiment-based puns. For example, the big bad bat guy, I knew you'd catch up to me sooner or later, how I relished this meeting. You, the dynamic Dark Knight, versus me, the conceptual Condiment King. Come on, Batman, let me see if you can cut the mustard. And we all know that I love bad jokes. The Condiment King is seemingly killed after being betrayed and bludgeoned by the Human Flame with his own ketchup and mustard guns at that in the miniseries finale Crisis Aftermath Run, which already shows how he can actually be deadly. But that's not taking into account any potential allergic reactions that he can trigger, like I said, anaphylactic shock, or blindness, okay? I mean, ketchup and mustard are very acidic and can cause some serious damage if left unchecked. Plus, what would you do if you had fries and he gives you mustard, okay? The only appropriate punishment for that is death. And at 4, Mr. Freeze. I put this on the list because I really wanted to make Freeze jokes, but yeah, it seemed a little cold. Mr. Freeze made his debut as Mr. Zero in Batman number 121 from 1959, and he was a gimmick character, but was later renamed and popularized as Mr. Freeze during the 1960s television series. However, it was Batman the Animated Series that truly revitalized the character and gave him a compelling origin. In the episode Heart of Ice, writer Paul Dini introduced Mr. Freeze's terminally ill wife Nora, cryogenically frozen to preserve her life. The tragic backstory explained his fixation on ice and turned his crime into crime to fund research for her cure. The complex and sympathetic portrayal resonated with fans, becoming the standard for the character in various media, including the comics. The episode's success was groundbreaking for a Saturday morning cartoon, shaping the tone of the entire series. The origin story became canon in the comics and remained the official backstory for Mr. Freeze in most Batman adaptations, and in the 1997 film Batman and Robin, Arnold Schwarzenegger portrayed him, incorporating elements of his origin, with Dr. Victor Freeze, a brilliant cryonologist, struggling to save his beloved wife. But yeah, we gotta love the puns. What killed the dinosaurs? A meteor! Instead of the Ice Age. If you get it, you get it. No one here's laughing, so I know that was a great joke. And at 3, Batman. While yes, Batman is a hero, and has been a hero in most iterations I should say, there are versions where the Bats is a bad guy and those are absolutely terrifying, okay? Satan Batman from Batman in Bethlehem, Vampire Batman from Red Rain, Batman the Merciless from Earth -12, Red Death, and the most iconic, the Batman Who Laughs. When he was a boy, Bruce Wayne watched his parents get killed in an alleyway, and then everything went sideways for this version of Batman when the Joker started a killing spree across Gotham. The clown had discovered that he was dying from the same chemicals that had turned him into what he was, and wanted to take everyone with him. He killed all of Batman's enemies, including Penguin, Catwoman, Killer Croc, and the Ventriloquist. He also killed Commissioner Gordon, who accidentally sprung an acid trap in his notebook that melted his face off. And then after bombing a hospital and recreating the scene of Bruce's parents' death in front of him multiple times, Batman lost control and snapped his neck. Unbeknownst to Batman though, the Joker exhaled a toxin that was contained within his heart, which infected anyone close to him if he had died, which in this case was Batman, causing him to snap and basically become the new Joker. We all know the story of the Batman Who Laughs, but yeah, that's enough to put him on this damn list. Okay, it's Batman but bad. That's terrifying. But ultimately, in number 2, Joker. The Joker has undergone many revisions since his 1940 debut. The most common interpretation of the character is that of a man who, while disguised as the criminal Red Hood, is pursued by Batman and falls into a vat of chemicals that bleaches his skin, colors his hair green, and then his lips red and drives him insane. I don't know how one vat of chemicals can bleach your skin, turn your hair green, and then your lips red, especially because your lips are your skin, but oh well. I guess that's just because he's crazy? The reasons why the Joker was disguised as the Red Hood and his identity before his transformation have changed over time. However, the lack of solid, consistent origins is the only part of what makes the character so mysterious. During the Darkseid War storyline, Batman uses Metron's Mobius chair to find out the Joker's real name, and the chair answers with quite the revelation. In the DC Universe Rebirth one-shot, Batman informs Hal Jordan that the chair told him that they were 3 individual Jokers and not just one. The revelation is the basis for Batman the miniseries 3 Jokers, where it's revealed that there were 3 Jokers that were working in tandem, including the Criminal, which was a methodical mastermind based on the Golden Age Joker, the Clown, which was a goofy prankster based on the Silver Age Joker, and the Comedian, a psychopathic killer based on the modern one. So yeah, when there's 3 of you, you're kind of gonna be at the top of the list, okay? And that's also partially why people love him so much. And finally, in at number 1, Deathstroke. I know that you're all gonna be mad at me putting Deathstroke over the Joker, but hear me out, okay? Being introduced in the new Teen Titans number 2 from 1980 as Deathstroke the Terminator, Deathstroke is often seen as the arch-enemy of the Teen Titans. However, the character has also served as a villain for Batman, Green Arrow, and the Justice League, and is the main antagonist of Arrow Season 2. The show seems to have a more powerful version when talking about brute strength, since he has actually the Mirakuru within his system, which is a super soldier serum that was ironically found on the island that Oliver was stranded on and saved Slade's life. But after the Mirakuru is in his bloodstream, he develops serious anger issues, like even worse than me, and that's tied to his strength, and then he comes back into Starling City to get revenge on Oliver by killing everyone he loves and blah blah blah. But especially in the comics, Deathstroke is a terrifying character, like when he became a speedster in the Lazarus contract from 2017, in which Wally is captured by Slade and finds himself bound to a machine, forced to reveal his secrets as he runs. Unbeknownst to Wally though, Slade manipulated him using a verbal technique to extract confidential information, and then he offers him a solution. Assist him in altering the past to save his son, and in return he will abandon his life as Deathstroke. But he doesn't, and then Deathstroke basically takes the Speed Force, which is nuts.
Alright, kicking off the list at number 10 today is Martian Manhunter. Now look, Martian Manhunter may be one of the main Justice League members, but he gets slept on way too much. I will always reference this when describing John's power, but there is a panel from the New 52 when Martian Manhunter is fighting off all the members of the Justice League at the same time. With his left hand, Manhunter is using his shape-shifting ability to turn that hand into a massive spiked club and whacking away both Cyborg and Green Lantern. With his right hand, I think it's safe to say he's showing off his super strength, as he's got a power grip on the lasso of truth, and I'm assuming he's just resisting its power. Behind him is Aquaman, who's like jabbing John with his trident, but the trident is just phasing through him because John can become intangible. Then we got Superman, who's like flying around the fight at a decent distance while Manhunter uses his heat vision to keep him there. And then the funniest part is Batman doing absolutely nothing, just picking up the Flash, who seems to have just been knocked down. It's almost a perfect display of his abilities, but leaving out a handful and one of the biggest. John is the most powerful telepath on Earth, and one of the most powerful in the entire universe. Martian Manhunter has been called the most powerful being on the planet, and he's at the top of the list of people that Superman is afraid to fight. Number 9, Booster Gold. Poor old Booster Gold, the greatest hero that you've probably never heard of. His day job involves traveling through time and space, ensuring that events that are meant to happen do happen, and he absolutely rocks at it. There was even a time that Booster went so far as to create an entire second persona named Supernova for himself, while simultaneously faking a psychological breakdown and eventually faking the passing of his own Booster Gold identity, all while he went and successfully replaced several major superheroes who were missing at the time, including Superman. The thing about Booster Gold is that in order to protect himself from other time travelers, Booster has to come across as a failure, an absolute dumpster fire of mediocrity. Somebody that no one will ever want to bother with remembering anything about in the future. That's why Booster has this shtick of being greedy, incompetent, and attention-seeking, which actually kind of began as genuine, but has long since been a facade. He willingly endures a life of ridicule from the people he protects without them knowing, because when you're dealing with time travel, being the butt of the joke actually gives you an advantage. Booster is also called upon to maintain events which are pretty much less than excellent, like ensuring that bad things that have to happen actually happen. For example, he routinely guards a little German baby boy born on the 20th of April 1889 in a small town in Austria-Hungary from other first-time time-traveling superheroes. He does all of those things because the alternative is the complete unraveling of all time and space and the destruction of everything. Number 8, Firestorm. Where do we even start with Firestorm? The main version of the character is Ronnie Raymond, who is fused with his professor, Martin Stein. But there are a lot of other versions of Firestorm, a lot of whom are either one person or different fusions of other people. It's annoyingly complex. The character, as you might guess, has pyrokinetic abilities plus durability, flight, reflexes, and super strength. But the character's main thing is that they can rearrange the molecules of matter. Now, this ability is obviously incredibly OP, and it would simply take one story to make him completely god level, but for the most part, writers kind of misuse him. Potentially, this character could transform entire planets into whatever he wanted. With this power, Firestorm's done some pretty godlike things. For example, Firestorm manifested a pink bunny mascot suit out of thin air around the villain's Skull Crusher. He's turned explosions into a jack-in-the-box and a cement truck into a giant teddy bear. It's kind of hilarious, but like low-key, absolutely insane. On a way less hilarious note, he also turned a girl into salt when he was resurrected as Deathstorm. And in Doomsday Clock, Firestorm accidentally turned a crowd of Russian protesters into glass. But outside of matter manipulation, Firestorm has had some impressive feats, like surviving the nuclear meltdown that originally created the hero and absorbing all the excess radiation. And another time, Firestorm survived a straight-on nuclear explosion. An alternate version of the character called Deathstorm was able to absorb and capture 3 different Justice League teams into its own Firestorm matrix. And in Infinite Crisis, Firestorm was able to seal a multiversal rift. In case you haven't noticed, we have kind of moved away from physically unstoppable characters to characters that are just pure science fiction gods. Number 7, John Constantine. John Constantine is a really fun inclusion for this list because he is extremely powerful and not powerful at all at the same time. John can wield magic for sure through years and years of learning, training, traveling, but he doesn't have any kind of magical affinity or any kind of beneficial magical family heritage. John relies on actual magic as a very last resort, and the magic he knows how to use isn't anything to scoff at. He has even, very momentarily, been able to hold back Dr. Fate, but using magic comes at a cost, and he knows this. So what Constantine prefers is trickery. Lies, deceit, traps, his wits, weapons, artifacts, backup, and calling in favors. John smokes, he drinks, he's in his middle ages, and he ain't in the greatest of health. He can throw a punch, for sure, but most people are a physical match for him. But at the same time, he has been able to trick, outsmart, or overpower gods, demons, and angels. Batman, Superman, Darkseid, Swamp Thing, Dr. Fate, the Phantom Stranger, the Spirit of Justice, the Spectre, the Spirit of Vengeance, Lucifer, and even the Presence, who is basically DC's version of God. He tricked them all. He tricked the Presence into curing John of cancer and granting him divine protection by selling his soul to 3 separate Hell Lords who would start a civil war over his soul, which would spill out onto Earth and into heaven. Don't sleep on this bad-mouthed middle-aged man. Number 6. Atom Smasher. Thanks to exposure to radiation, Atom Smasher is already an incredibly impressive looking guy. He stands at 7 foot 6 inches tall, and he is jacked. This guy's bicep is probably bigger than my torso, which isn't really saying much. But his real power is being able to grow even bigger. He has the power of atomic dispersal, meaning he is able to control the distance between his atoms, increasing to anywhere from 28 to 60 feet in height. His mass, durability, strength, speed, and stamina are all increased even more so as he grows. Now, Albert Rothstein made his superhero debut under a different name. Initially, Al went by the superhero alias of Nuklon, and he was an original member of the superhero team called Infinity Inc. But following in his godfather, the Atom's footsteps, Albert took on his Atom Smasher name and joined up with the Justice Society of America in JSA number 1 by James Robinson. The thing about Atom Smasher that makes me think he deserves better is his entire interaction with Black Adam. When Black Adam joined the JSA, one of its members that he happened to get close with was Atom Smasher, and he even convinced Smasher to leave the team and start an anti-hero team instead, which led Smasher down a darker path, even becoming part of the Suicide Squad for a time. He has been redeemed since, but I don't think he ever really deserved that in the first place. Number 5, Hawkman. Hawkman is a doozy to talk about. Essentially, he has two main origins. He was either a space cop or a reincarnated prince, and sometimes both. Basically, Hawkman's secret identity is Carter Hall, an archaeologist and a museum creator who is actually a reincarnation of the ancient Egyptian prince, Khufu. Now Khufu, who would become known as Hawkman, discovered an alien spacecraft from the planet Thanagar powered by an anti-gravity element called the Nth metal, which transformed his soul and doomed him and his love to be reincarnated over and over again throughout time. Some of his incarnations include Brian Kent, the Silent Knight from 5th century Britain, Conrad von Grimm, the son of a blacksmith in 14th century Germany, Captain John Smith of the 16th century English colony in Virginia, Hannibal Hawks, the Nighthawk in the American Old West, Detective James Wright, a Pinkerton detective in the early 20th century, and finally, Carter Hall himself. Whether it's because of his really confusing origins, or maybe because people don't realize how cool this character actually is, he just kinda seems to suck. And when I was a kid, I thought he was super cool. Oh, to be an innocent, sweet child again. Number 4, Raven. Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go brought the new Teen Titans to a big audience, and one character who really stood out is Raven. She's been like the character on that team that everyone seems to like regardless of who you are. Seriously, you can't go to a comic book convention without seeing someone rocking a Raven cosplay. She's like the goth icon for superhero fans. Raven's super popular, and it's kind of strange that DC hasn't done more with her. She's got an awesome but also absolutely terribly upsetting backstory, crazy strong powers that could literally destroy all we hold dear, and a personality that fans absolutely adore. Honestly, she could totally be DC's version of a much better and more interesting Scarlet Witch without any trouble. It's just frustrating that DC isn't giving her more love in the comics like they do in the shows. Number 3, Aquaman. The ocean is a genuinely terrifying and interesting place. As such, the Atlanteans of DC Comics possess a few advantages over us regular humans. They have super strength, speed, endurance, and durability, all in order to help them survive the mind-boggling pressure at the insane depths of the ocean at which they live. But Aquaman himself is a royal Atlantean, which means that he is a super Atlantean. His strength and durability has allowed him to close the Marianas Trench, which I don't even know how that works, go toe-to-toe with powerful foes like Martian Manhunter, Lobo, and Wonder Woman, and tank blasts from Starro. His speed, which is often forgotten about, allows him to swim at 10,000 feet per second, and he can move even faster without the pressure of water drag, allowing him to dodge bullets and catch lasers. But Aquaman has quite a few other advantages. His control over sea life has helped him in a large majority of his fights, with his underwater allies coming to his aid and helping him do things he probably couldn't do alone, like creating a massive tsunami with whales. His telepathic skill is actually quite impressive as well. Some of my favorite feats include him telepathically controlling a Green Lantern ring, reading the Martian Manhunter's mind without permission, and controlling a space dragon. For a while, he also had a hand that was a hook, and then that became a magical mystical water hand that could do a whole other level of feats, but I'm kind of out of time, so we're moving on. Number 2, Animal Man. Thanks to an encounter with some rather strange aliens, Bernard Buddy Baker gained access to the morphogenic field, otherwise known as the Red. This field basically allows Buddy to absorb and use different attributes of nearby animals while still being a human. So, he has been able to move his eyes independently like a chameleon, he's been able to ram against a speeding car with the abilities of a rhino, he can fly by tapping into birds, he's regenerated a whole lost limb by tapping into an earthworm, gained the strength to lift a car by tapping into a spider, and he's ran at 75 miles per hour by adopting the abilities of of an ant. But his abilities have done some even more surprising things, like for example, when a villain cut Buddy off from the nearby animals by putting him in a room, he took on the attributes of the bacteria inside that villain's body, allowing Animal Man to duplicate himself. He can even tap into the attributes of extinct animals like dinosaurs, which has allowed him to punch out a T-Rex and survive being crashed into by a plane. Over time, he's received power boosts that allow him to use multiple abilities at once, and then to even use the abilities of any animal in the universe, like when he used the power of a quote sun eater, which let him fly across the galaxy in an instant. Number 1, Icon. While Milestone's Dakotaverse isn't currently a part of the DC universe, the New 52 previously merged the universes together with the Wildstorm reality. Icon returned as the most powerful Milestone character in the new Earth M setting. He was originally an alien named Arnis, whose ship crashed on an Earth plantation. Arnis was raised as an unwilling servant named Augustus Freeman until his memories and powers developed during the Civil War. He spent 100 years working as a lawyer before Raquel Irvin convinced him to become the costumed hero Icon and set an example for others. Icon has incredible strength that rivals Superman's. Icon also has incredible reserves of energy that he can project in various forms. He's one of the best Superman-like characters, and yet I feel like he just hasn't been given any real good times to shine recently. It's like DC kinda just forgot about him and a lot of the Dakotaverse alongside him.
Number 10, Batwoman. I love Batwoman, but I feel like so many times she honestly gets shafted, especially in regard to her connection to the Bat family. Granted, Kate Kane does often like to be independent from her cousin, Bruce Wayne, but she is still a member of the family, and I don't think she really gets featured enough in the comics. While she has been featured elsewhere in the DC universe, she hasn't had her own self-titled series since 2018, and even then, that series only lasted for a year, from 2017 to 2018, having just shy of 20 issues. You might think, wow, well, that's still a good accomplishment in modern day comics, and you're right. However, when you look at, how long Batman always goes on for, we could have a little bit more Batwoman than like whatever she got, like 18, 19 issues. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd and you want more DC content from us, do I have good news for you? We have a DC Comics playlist, so go check that out. Number 9, Stargirl. Stargirl is one of those characters that I just feel we don't see enough of in the comics. Now, she has had her moments in the comics, and she did end up getting her own TV show, it is true, but considering that she did have her own TV series, I was kind of hoping we get to see more of her in the comics as a result. And in recent years, since her series started, this hasn't really been as much the case. Now, she has been on the Justice League before, sure, and she's had her own mini-series as recently as 2022, which is pretty good, but we still have never had an ongoing comic series for Stargirl. Like, she's never had a self-titled ongoing. And considering how cool Courtney Whitmore is and how much she is loved by the fans, it's honestly just kind of unfortunate. Number 8, Big Barda. Big Barda is another hero who often feels invincible in terms of her approach to heroism. Big Barda herself is a new god. She hails from Apokolips, where she was once one of Darkseid's fearsome female Furies. Despite the fact that Big Barda has recently resurfaced joining up with the Birds of Prey, which honestly I think is a great fit for her, she hasn't been regularly featured prior to this for some time, and I feel like she is a character who deserves more hype in the comics. Heck, even in the movies. Where is our Big Barda solo film, huh? I feel like actually James Gunn would probably do a really good job of putting that together, the Big Barda solo film. Oh, I would watch that. I would be in that. I don't know if I'm jacked enough to be Big Barda, but I'd get jacked to be Big Barda. She's so cool. Number 7, Naomi. Naomi is probably one of the most powerful of the newer heroes that we've seen. But do most people even know who she is? Probably not. Amber, do you know who she is, Naomi? Nope, see, there you go. Despite her powers being comparable, and I would argue even stronger than characters like Superman, she isn't often heavily featured in the comics. Unlike Superman, whose weakness is actually magic, Naomi bolsters magic around her. Haha! So magic does not have the same negative effect on her, but instead works almost in the exact opposite way. Her powers allow her to generate energy, which she can then use to boost her powers or any magic or magical beings around her. I'm still waiting for an epic Zatanna and Naomi team up to happen in the comics, and yes, I know Naomi had her own TV series, but she also only got one season of that. And while I've heard some great things about it, overall it seems like the series was met with a mixed reception between audience and critics. So, although honestly, I gotta watch it. I should watch the Naomi series. Bet I'd probably enjoy at least some of it. I mean, I'm surprised I'm enjoying Gotham Knights as much as I am, even though that show is an experience. Number 6, Killer Frost. Caitlin Snow is truly a character that has sat on the periphery of the DC mainstream for years and years. Yet despite being super cool, pun intended, and interesting in regards to her backstory, whether we're focusing on Caitlin honestly or even her predecessor, Louise Lincoln, but especially Caitlin, she barely gets featured in the comics, appearing less than 100 times in the last 10 years. If we're talking about Caitlin Snow, that is. And that's even with a version of Caitlin's character being adapted for the CW Arrowverse television series The Flash, appearing as one of the key members of the Flash's support team there. Number 5, Batgirl. One of the weirdest things with DC is how sometimes they just completely leave their stories open to being canon or not, depending on how fans receive those stories. And one of the weirdest incidents of this happening was actually with The Killing Joke. Now, The Killing Joke was written by Alan Moore and was never intended by him to be necessarily a part of the main continuity. And as far as I know, it still isn't even really fully canon, except for one part of that story, the successful attack on Barbara Gordon by the Joker, which left her both traumatized and paralyzed from the waist down. Why this was the only thing we chose to keep from this story, I don't know, but the whole idea of it just feels super weird to me, especially when you consider how brutal and graphic this attack was against Barbara. And Barbara gets no opportunity to defend herself, having been surprised by the Joker's visit while visiting her dad in her civilian form. That being said, she's still Barbara Gordon, so you still would think, you know, maybe she do something, but no. This element of the story would change Barbara's life forever, and although I do like Babs as Oracle, it feels like she was robbed of some agency here. In fact, it feels like she was robbed of a lot of agency here, especially when you consider the story was never really intended to be incorporated into the canon. Barbara Gordon has since managed to heal and return to her role as Batgirl while still keeping all the skills she was shown to have as the brilliant hacker and computer whiz Oracle. But I still feel like the fact that she suffered so severely from what was intended to be a story that existed outside of canon is brutal. Number 4, Blackfire. You know you deserve better when I've barely talked about you as a character on the channel when I've been working here for almost 5 years. Yikes. Poor Blackfire. I'm sorry, Blackfire. I'm sorry for my part in this. I feel like the thing I'd personally love to see more of from a character like Blackfire is perspective in the comics. Blackfire is the evil sister of Starfire. And I mean, she is really evil. And while she might be one of the best of the worst around, I would say she does ultimately lack some depth. Sure, she is really, really bad, but I've always found her to be more surface level in terms of her motivation behind why she does what she does. In the New Earth continuity, it's the lack of respect and love from her people and her jealousy for her young sister, Coriander, Starfire, who got all that love instead, that basically drives her to do such terrible things. In the Prime Earth continuity, this is less focused on, but still plays a role. And even in the New Earth continuity, I'd like to see more of this in terms of the nuances of Commander's character. I understand her being jealous, I get that, but how else does this affect the way the Blackfire sees not just like her sister, but like the whole world? How else does she justify such terrible actions? Is there any way to get across to her and potentially reach her on an emotional level? I want to feel for Commander, and I often feel she's robbed of any kind of sympathetic perspective, even with everything she went through as a child. I mean, like, I do feel bad for her in terms of like what happened to her, but I just feel like we never really get to connect with her, you know? And I think I'd like to do that more. Is that weird? People are gonna be like, why you want to connect with this super evil character? Look, I love evil characters, and I think sometimes they have reasons. Number 3, Variant. Talk about women who have been shafted in the comics. How about any of these cyber women that we have seen who have acted as female counterparts to Cyborg? Among them is Variant. Variant only made a handful of appearances before she was tragically just like kind of written out, but I do think her character had promise, and I've always felt it would be cool for Cyborg to have someone to talk to who really gets what it's like to live as he does and share his perspective. Scarlet Taylor is very similar to Cyborg in that regard, being a member of the CIA who almost lost her life on a mission and was saved by being transformed into a cyborg like Cyborg himself was. Number 2, Vixen. Vixen is a supermodel turned businesswoman, and in the current continuity, a supermodel slash fashion designer turned primetime show host and animal activist. Well, it's more than likely that Vixen has been an animal activist ever since she possessed the superpower to take various animal shapes. Armed with the Tantu totem, she can transform into various different animals and harness their own unique abilities and powers. And even without the totem, she currently still can call on at least some of its power, giving herself like animal characteristics basically. Still, despite having this insane amount of power at her fingertips, and the fact that she has a pretty cool backstory is stunning, and is a badass, we don't see Vixen featured that often in the comics. When we talk about Halle Berry and DC, that Catwoman movie, look, that wasn't great, but I feel like Vixen would have been an amazing character to see Barry in the role of. Number 1, Circe. While Hecate and Hera are both goddesses, at one point Circe is even more powerful than the both of them, after she takes within herself all of Hecate's power, which allows her to tap into the source of magic. Even without being able to tap into the source of magic, Circe is known for being a fearsome and powerful witch who can easily defeat many of those who would stand against her. And yet despite this, we haven't really seen Circe focused on as a villain in what honestly feels to me like forever. I know it hasn't been that long, but it feels like forever. In Justice League Dark by James Tynion IV, we even get a great look into Circe's tragic backstory that shows us why Circe is as power hungry and ruthless as she is. She didn't necessarily have the easiest life, guys. It comes from a place of self-preservation because she was so cruelly mistreated by the world, and yet despite building up her character, it still often feels like she falls by the wayside at DC Comics. She's such a cool character. She should have her own series, honestly.
At number 10 is Red Tornado. Thank you to Sunstar808 for suggesting this one in the comments of part 1. Red Tornado was basically if Vision and Avatar Aang had a baby. Created by the villainous T.O. Morrow, this android hero's body is powered by a sentient wind elemental named Ulthun. Now, what makes him stand out is, well, he boasts some seriously impressive abilities. First off, that android body of his grants him superhuman durability, stamina, and strength, but his supernatural powers are that he can manipulate wind, allowing him to move at superhuman speeds, fly, and even generate powerful vortexes. He can even transform into a human-looking form at will, so he's basically DC's answer to Vision, y'all. And since he is an android, Red Tornado is also a computer whiz and a skilled teacher. As Sunstar808 put it in the comments, he's a powerful AI being that's often relegated to a background player, even though its abilities exceed more popular members of the Justice League. At number 9 is Zatanna. Thank you to Karen Starr for this one. Zatanna is one of the unsung heroes of the DC universe who possesses a staggering array of magical abilities. Her mystical prowess grants her dominion over both cosmic and supernatural forces, effectively rendering her as a sorceress supreme. I'm a Marvel fan. Through her unique method of backward speech known as logomancy, she can initiate a wide range of supernatural effects. This includes manipulating the very fabric of reality, altering weather patterns, controlling gravity, and even disintegrating objects with a mere word. Not limited to just a magician's bag of tricks, Zatanna can heal wounds, turn invisible, and reshape molecular structures. Telekinesis, teleportation, and the ability to create force fields further cement her as a formidable hero. She's even delved into dark magic, showcasing her willingness to pay the high cost of such power. Now, despite her astounding abilities, Zatanna's magic often exacts a toll, and she's not without her limitations, particularly in her reliance on speech for logomancy. Still, this magical maven certainly deserves more recognition and appreciation than she tends to get. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. I would really appreciate if you did. At number 8 is Superboy. Thank you to Jamie Kane 3847 for this one. Honestly, I didn't really want to bring up Connor Kent, but you guys only gave me like 9 suggestions in the comments. Speaking of which, somebody said the channel should relegate me to being a research boy, so I was determined not to do any research for this video. Thanks, Jacob. Anyways, Superboy, or Con-El, stands as one of the DC Universe's most powerful, underrated powerhouses. Born as a DNA alien clone designed to replace the fallen fallen Superman, he's got more than just good genes, because we've got his nifty tactical telekinesis, power that forms a force field around him which mimics Superman's abilities like super speed, super strength, flight, and invulnerability. So technically speaking, at least at first, Kon-El is simply using telekinesis to mimic Superman's powers. Now let's talk about character development. Superboy has had his share of arrogance issues, particularly thanks to his DNA mix, which includes a dash of Lex Luthor. Over time, he's earned some humility, but that ego can still sneak up and bite him in the cape, causing some messy situations. At number 7 is Raven. Also known as Rachel Roth, she's a superhero who deserves more recognition in the DC universe. Her backstory is a roller coaster of emotions. She's the half-demon daughter of Trigon, a nasty demon who wants to take over the planet. Her mom, Arella, is just a human caught up in this demon drama. Raven's got to keep her feelings in check 24/7 or she risks going full-on apocalypse mode. But here's the thing, she's got a heart of gold buried underneath all that darkness. Despite her demon daddy issues, she's found a second family in the Teen Titans. And boy oh boy does she pack a punch. She can project her consciousness, manipulate darkness, create energy constructs, and even mess with time. The list goes on and on. She can fly, teleport, control fire and electricity. I mean, Raven's got it all. In the words of Chris Bradley, who suggested this entry in part 1, Raven definitely deserves better. She is very powerful, she looks very beautiful and stunning in her costume. I also think that Raven is the DC Comics version of Scarlet Witch. Basically what I'm saying is that Raven is awesome, period. At number 6 is Mr. Terrific. Thank you to Trek Staven 4726, I think. Sorry I butchered your username. Mr. Terrific is both Terry Sloan and Michael Holt, who are DC legacy superheroes who truly deserve more attention. But I can see why they haven't really gotten any, because their superpower is literally just being a Marty Stew. Terry Sloan, the original Mr. Terrific, was a remarkable individual with unmatched athletic abilities, intellect, and unwavering commitment to justice during the golden age of comics. His character serves as an inspiring symbol of what a person can achieve through determination and hard work. Later on, Michael Holt took on the mantle, the modern incarnation of Mr. Terrific, who ranks as the 3rd smartest person on the planet. Not only is he a brilliant inventor and businessman, but he's also the founding member of the Terrifics, a superhero team with unique powers and abilities. Both of these Mr. Terrifics possess an almost too good to be true quality, often seen as Marty Stews because of their extraordinary capabilities. In a world filled with superpowered heroes, Mr. Terrific stands out as the embodiment of unpowered human potential, much like Batman does, except without all the clout. At number 5 is Hitman. Despite his rather grim occupation as a hitman, Tommy's character has depth that's often overlooked. He got a raw deal when he was bitten by a parasite, granting him telepathy and X-ray vision. This upgrade could have propelled him into the spotlight, but sadly, he remains a hidden gem. His telepathic powers, though limited, gave him an edge in battles. He could sense impending threats, making him a formidable opponent, and on top of that, his X-ray vision allowed him to see through objects and environments, obviously. Tommy's military training equipped him with firearm skills, but he's far from invincible, often being outmatched. Plus, his telepathy came at the cost of chronic migraines, which he tried to alleviate with alcohol, showcasing his very human side. The fact that Tommy hasn't made it to live-action adaptations, not even appearing in the Arrowverse, is definitely a mystery. Perhaps James Gunn can give this underrated hero the recognition he deserves. At number 4 is Metamorpho. Metamorpho is the Element Man, a diamond in the rough in the world of DC superheroes. Imagine having the power to morph your body into any element you desire, from liquid to gas to solid, even toxic compounds. Rex Mason's transformation was triggered by exposure to an ancient meteorite's energy, turning him into a metahuman with a twisty, stretchy, and bouncy physique, reminiscent of rubber. He's basically a walking chemistry lab and a living Swiss Army knife with the ability to create gadgets on the fly. But here's the kicker, he's not just about elemental fun and games. Metamorpho packs a punch with superhuman strength and durability. He's a skilled martial artist and has an uncanny knack for aviation and investigation. Yet this elemental hero remains largely unappreciated. He's been a part of various superhuman teams, but he's never quite demonstrated his full potential. And number 3 is Element Girl, who gained her powers by replicating the very incident that gave Metamorpho his abilities, becoming a metamorphite just like him. By the way, this entry, the last entry, was suggested by Trek Extravagant 4726. Thank you very much. Anyways, thanks to Amun-Ra, the sun god of Egypt, she could transform her body into any elemental compound and manipulate it at will. Sadly, her life took a dark turn. After leaving the CIA, she sank into depression due to her transformed appearance, which left her feeling like a freak. She attempted to unalive herself multiple times, but her powers prevented her from doing so. It was only when the essence of being unalive itself intervened that she found relief. She then implored Ra to take away her powers, allowing her to finally find eternal peace. In the end, despite her incredible abilities, depression was her greatest weakness, and it's a reminder of the importance of mental health even for the most powerful superheroes. And number 2 is Doom Patrol. The Doom Patrol is a team of metahuman heroes who often go unnoticed in the vast world of DC superheroes, but they truly deserve better recognition. This unique group consists of individuals who have been shunned by society due to their unusual powers, which have caused them immense alienation and trauma. Led by Niles Calder, known as the Chief, who was actually fired because they suspected him for causing the origin stories of a lot of these superheroes to begin with. The Doom Patrol faces foes in situations that are downright bizarre, making their adventures stand out among all the other superhero teams in DC. Their lineup includes Beast Boy, who can morph into any animal, Elastigirl, who, her power speaks for itself. Mento, who went back in time to try to prevent himself from taking over the future, super cool, and Robot Man, a former race car driver who now inhabits a formidable android body. In my opinion, the Doom Patrol boasts some of the most potent heroes in the DC universe, and it's high time they receive the recognition and love they truly deserve. Adam Eve, recommended by William Kituri, who technically isn't even a DC character, but you recommended it, and there is a DC crossover at one point, so I'm gonna allow it. As Adam Eve, her main power is subatomic manipulation, meaning that with sheer willpower alone, she can sense and manipulate matter and energy at the subatomic level, essentially reshaping reality. Flight? No problem. Adam Eve alters air density to soar through the skies. Force fields? Yep, she conjures them up using her transmutation powers. And she's even got telekinesis too. Energy blasts? Yeah, she's got that too. And while she commands nature's elements at the subatomic level, rearranging atoms and molecules to transmute matter, her powers don't typically work when used on organic life. You see, mental blocks limit her abilities, but extreme emotional moments can shatter those barriers, allowing her to unleash her power on organic matter. But for someone who can allegedly rearrange atoms on a molecular level, she doesn't always seem to be using it most effectively. She could take out whoever she wanted by, say, turning the air in your lungs to ammonia. Let's get real. Even with the cap on organic life, she should still be way more OP than she's depicted.
Number 10, Doom Patrol. This team of freaks were all victims of accidents caused by the scientist Niles Calder. These accidents made the team members outcasts, but also granted them amazing powers, which made them capable of amazing feats. They also have members who would match up well against many members of the Silver Age Justice League. Their leader, Niles Calder, has a tactical brain that rivals that of Batman. Lucius Reynolds can wield magic and is capable of pyrokinesis, which could make him a problem for Martian Manhunter and could dehydrate Aquaman, who in the Silver Age needed to be exposed to water every hour. Danny the Street could make himself a yellow, inescapable void, thus trapping Green Lantern. One of Kay Chalice's personalities can see the future, making her a good candidate to go up against and counter Flash's super speed. Elastigirl's power to grow to huge heights is similar to Wonder Woman's recurring villain Giganta, making them a good matchup, and Negative Man can produce radiation, which he recently used in the latest World's Finest run by Mark Waid to imitate the effects of Krypton's red sun, meaning that he could depower Superman. He could also use this power to give Batman cancer, so all in all, the Doom Patrol is not to be trifled with. Number 9, the Teen Titans. A team consisting of the various sidekicks and young heroes of the DC universe, many fans would assume that the Justice League would have no trouble taking out this team. But I would argue that the Silver Age version of the team is less powerful than most of the more infamous Titans lineups. Silver Age Batman is the guy who wore a different colored batsuit every night to try and distract criminals from Robin's broken arm. In a fight between him and Nightwing, Tim Drake, or Damian, I would put my money on any of the Robins who have been on the Titans 9 times out of 10. Silver Age Martian Manhunter's weakness is fire? Well, good luck with Starfire. Superman would probably pair up best against Raven, whose magic would give him some trouble. Miss Martian's mind control would be effective against Green Lantern. Between members like Cyborg, Supergirl, Power Girl, and Beast Boy, I think Aquaman and Wonder Woman could be handled. The only leaguer I'm having trouble with is the Flash. Any ideas? Let me know in the comments. Number 8. The Shazamily. Billy Batson, aka Shazam's family of heroes are a powerful force to be reckoned with, and though their youth and inexperience might be a disadvantage if they were fighting the modern League, you have to remember how often the Silver Age heroes made really bizarre, borderline stupid decisions. Superman and Shazam have a history of going toe-to-toe and are pretty evenly matched, so they pretty much cancel each other out. Black Adam is currently a member of the Shazamily, and when he fought Martian Manhunter in the World War III storyline, Black Adam beat him so hard that he left the planet crying. So no issues there. That leaves 5 Shazam family members: Freddy, Darla, Mary, Pedro, and Eugene, all of whom have the powers of Shazam and their magical tiger Tawny against 4 Leaguers: Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Aquaman. This version of Batman isn't really suited for this kind of fight, so whether or not the remaining 3 League could survive would really depend on how long it would take Black Adam to murder Martian Manhunter. Number 7. The Justice Society. Before the Justice League was introduced in 1960, the superhero team of the DC Universe was the Justice Society of America. They helped the Allied forces in World War II and have helped to keep the world safe ever since. This team gets a lot of points against the League due to the technicality we established in the intro. Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman were all members of both teams, so won't be considered in this hypothetical matchup. While that removes a lot of the League's heavy hitters, the JSA is still left with a considerable roster that would make them a nightmare for the remaining Leaguers. Black Adam is a member of this team as well, so as stated before, he could handle Martian Manhunter like he did in the World War III storyline. In a fight between Silver Age Aquaman and Hawkman and Hawkgirl, Arthur Curry is coming out of it as fish food. The JSA has their own Flash and Green Lanterns in the form of Jay Garrick and Alan Scott, so that would put the JSA on almost even footing, but once you include additional members like Blue Beetle, Cyclone, and Atom Smasher, and Mr. Terrific, I think the JSA takes it through sheer numbers. Number 6. Young Justice. Yet another beloved team of young heroes who were mostly sidekicks who formed their own team, Young Justice wouldn't last long against the modern Justice League, but once again, you have to take into account the weaknesses inherent to the Silver Age versions of the characters. For example, while you might assume that the first Aquaman, Arthur Curry, would wipe the floor with the new Aquaman and former Aqualad, Jackson Hyde, the Silver Age version of Arthur wasn't summoning leviathans or causing tidal waves, he was riding dolphins and hanging out with an octopus named Topo. As I said in the Titans entry, Tim Drake vs Silver Age Batman is no contest. Teen Lantern might not be a match for Green Lantern, but if any member of the team simply painted themselves yellow, they would probably be fine. Superboy would probably take Superman by surprise with the sheer level of brutality he was capable of, and although he probably wouldn't win, if he teamed up with a character like Sideways who can open rifts to other dimensions, they could probably get him off the board for a while. Martian Manhunter could be trouble, but Jenny Hex's power negation abilities and the sheer power of characters like Amethyst and Naomi McDuffie, I think they could handle him. Wonder Girl and Silver Age Wonder Woman are probably about on par, and Impulse would be able to at least slow down the Flash, but the Young Justice ringer is Summer Pickens, who can dial her H-phone and be replaced with a hero from the Heroverse who can handle the task for her. Number 5. Justice League Dark. This subset of the League is dedicated to dealing with supernatural or mystic threats to the Earth, and has many of DC's most powerful magic wielders as members. Wonder Woman was a member of both teams, so she won't be considered in this entry. A member like Deadman, who can possess people, would be a good way to take out the Flash. The demon Etrigan almost killed the modern Batman in Kevin Smith's Widening Gyre, so Silver Age Bats is totally screwed. He's also yellow, so he could cause a lot of problems for Green Lantern. Superman's magic weakness would make him particularly vulnerable to all of the members of this team, but mostly Zatanna. And don't tell me you wouldn't love to see Silver Age Aquaman go up against the chain-smoking magic wielder John Constantine, who could just use magic to dehydrate him. All that leaves is Martian Manhunter, while the Dark Justice League still has a surplus of fighters like Dr. Fate, Swamp Thing, and Enchantress, just to name a few. Number 4. The Legion of Superheroes. The Legion of Superheroes are a massive team of superpowered people from various worlds in the 30th century. They have a history of traveling through time to team up with a young Clark Kent and preventing disasters before they happen. Unfortunately for the League, this means that their most powerful member is benched for this round. A Legion member like Element Lad, who can transmute common elements, like water, into other things, could take out this version of Aquaman pretty fast, while the Chemical Kid's ability to affect the chemical reactions in the body would cause Batman to go into toxic shock. Dragonwing can breathe fire, which would make Martian Manhunter have some issues. Despite Superman being off the board for both teams, the Daxamite Mon-El has a very similar power set to the Man of Steel and would be a real challenge for Wonder Woman, especially if he teamed up with another member of the team, Superman's son John. There's no one hero who could break the Flash's stride, but considering there are like 24 Legion of superhero members I haven't mentioned, the Legion would take this fight over the original Justice League through sheer numbers. Number 3, the Bat Family. So obviously Batman is off the table for this pair-up of the League versus the various sidekicks that Batman has trained over the years. While I don't think that the modern Bat Family could take out the original League in open combat, their experience over the years in guerrilla tactics and their access to a Bat computer full of plans designed to take out way more powerful versions of the League's heroes would give them a definite edge. But even if we take away those plans as they were developed by Batman, the Bat Family has the know-how to formulate effective contingency plans of their own. In the recent Robin and Batman miniseries, we learned that coming up with plans to take out superpowered beings was one of the first lessons Dick Grayson was taught when he was introduced to the Justice League and the Teen Titans. Characters like Tim Drake and Damian Wayne have shown a keen tactical mind, with Damian repeatedly bragging about how he would plan to take out the superheroes of the League. These Robins, teamed with other members like the various Batgirls, Batwing, Signal, and Huntress, would be more than smart enough to come up with their own plans to take out the Silver Age heroes of the League. We know they have access to Kryptonite, although Damian claims to have a plane to defeat Superman in the comics that is magic-based. Dick Grayson beat up Green Lantern as a child in All-Star Batman and Robin after painting an entire room and himself yellow, so Nightwing would have no issues as an adult going up against the Silver Age version of the character. I like the mental image of Silver Age Aquaman having to try and go 10 rounds with the Red Hood, and although Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Wonder Woman would be difficult to deal with, the Bat Family could take them out, and I know how cliched this sounds, if they had enough prep time. Number 2, the Green Lantern Corps. This intergalactic group of space cops use the power of will to fuel their Green Lantern rings, which allow them to create powerful constructs limited only by the user's imagination. Well, the logic I've used so far on this list on how other heroes could defeat Silver Age Green Lantern may initially sound like something the Silver Age League could use to their advantage, this weakness no longer affects the modern Green Lantern Corps. It was revealed that the weakness yellow was due to the being Parallax being trapped in the Green Lantern's central power battery on the planet Oa and causing an impurity. This impurity has since been removed, meaning that the League painting themselves yellow wouldn't help them. Both the Corps and the League obviously lose Hal Jordan due to him being on both teams, but that still leaves dozens of Green Lanterns for the 6 remaining Leaguers to try and deal with. While having the Flash, Wonder Woman, and Superman would make the League last longer than you might think, the sheer size and power of the Green Lantern Corps, with powerful members of later iterations of the League such as John Stewart and Guy Gardner, would make the Justice League outmatched. But maybe we'd get to see Batman take out Guy Gardner with a single punch again before it happened. Number 1, the Superman family. The Superman family might just be one of the most OP superhero teams in the DC universe, with many of its members having the same powers as the Man of Steel. In this hypothetical matchup, the Silver Age Justice League simply wouldn't stand a chance. Not only do they lose their most powerful team member due to the technicality, but they have to go up against heroes like Supergirl, Superboy, and the John Kent Superman. I think Kara Zor-El is the most interesting matchup against this version of Wonder Woman, and that Power Girl could take out Green Lantern with John Kent wiping the floor with Silver Age Aquaman. Martian Manhunter would be dangerous with his mind control, but a bolt of heat vision from Superboy would probably be sufficient. The Flash is tricky but by no means impossible to defeat in his Silver Age iteration, and honestly the biggest threat to the Super family would be Batman with his kryptonite. But Lana Lang's Superwoman is not affected by this, so she should be okay. Anyone left over from the fight would be in no condition to keep going for long, which is when the last line of defense would kick in. A super dog, cat, and monkey, all with the powers of the Man of Steel. Honestly, the Superman family is so powerful that even the modern version of the Justice League would have trouble triumphing over them if it ever came to blows between the two groups.
Coming in at number 10 is Raven. Rachel Roth, known as Raven, is a unique individual with a dual nature, part human and part demon, being the daughter of the fearsome Trigon and a woman named Arella. Born in Azarath, a realm different from Earth, Raven grew up feeling like an outsider due to her origins. Seeking answers about her identity, she accidentally summoned Trigon, resulting in the destruction of Azarath and her abduction by her malevolent father. Despite her tumultuous lineage, Raven found solace and purpose as a valued member of the Teen Titans, a group of young superheroes. During her time with the Titans, she developed a deep connection with Damian Wayne, also known as Robin, and their relationship evolved into a romantic partnership. Raven's journey is one of self-discovery as she strives to reconcile her human and demonic sides while battling the inner darkness inherited from her father. Number 9. Batman. Bruce Wayne, whose parents were tragically taken from existence in an alley by Joe Chill, dedicated his life to becoming the vigilante Batman. You already know this. As a member of the Justice League, Batman joined forces with his teammates to confront a crisis at the Flash Museum. Recognizing the danger of the devices attached to the villains, Batman worked alongside Green Lantern and Mirror Master to disarm them in the lower atmosphere. With those devices neutralized and the villains apprehended, Batman tried to dissuade the Flash from falling into Professor Zoom's trap, but was unsuccessful. The Flash's actions led to the creation of the Flashpoint timeline, erasing Batman and the world as they knew it. After the timeline was finally restored, the Flash visited Batman and shared the events that transpired, including delivering a letter from Bruce's late father. Touched by the message, Batman tearfully acknowledged the Flash, recognizing him as an exceptional messenger. Number 8. Superman. Kal-El, the last survivor of Krypton, was sent to Earth by his parents, Jor-El and Lara, to escape the impending destruction of their planet. Landing in Kansas, he was adopted by Jonathan and Martha Kent and raised as Clark Kent. As an adult, Clark became a reporter at the Daily Planet and assumed the mantle of Superman, using his incredible powers granted by Earth's yellow sun to protect humanity and uphold justice. He became a founding member of the Justice League and dedicated his life to fighting for truth and justice. Following the restoration of the timeline, Clark's personal history remains intact, but with some alterations, including the erasure of his marriage to Lois Lane and a new design for his costume, which actually looks kinda cool. Despite being a relatively new hero, Superman is wildly adored and admired by the world, in contrast to other superheroes who face fear and distrust from the population. I'm talking about in-universe, not in our world. Everyone knows Superman. We all know him. Number 7. Amazo. Amazo, also known as the Android or Professor Ivo's android, was a nanotechnological creation designed by Professor Ivo. Equipped with advanced nanotechnology, Amazo possessed the ability to replicate the traits and abilities of any person or object by observing them. After Professor Ivo's passing, Lex Luthor discovered Amazo and recognized his potential, using his manipulation skills to gain control over the android. Luthor convinced Amazo that he would take care of him as Ivo would have wanted, and he turned Amazo into confronting the Justice League. Luthor sent Amazo on a mission to steal fuel, causing a rampage to grab the League's attention. Through his mimicry, Amazo assimilated the powers and equipment of various League members, including Hawkgirl's Mason wings, Wonder Woman's abilities and bracelets, John Stewart's power ring, and Flash's super speed. With an amalgamation of their powers, Amazo overwhelmed the League pretty easily. Despite Superman's attempt to prevent it, Amazo successfully replicated Superman's abilities as well, further enhancing his own strength. Number 6. Wonder Woman. Diana of Themyscira, also known as Wonder Woman, is an Amazonian warrior princess and prominent superhero in the Justice League. In the Flashpoint timeline, she becomes queen of the Amazons and enters into an alliance with the Atlanteans, resulting in an affair with Orin, the king of Atlantis. When Mira, Orin's wife, attempts to take out Diana, she is actually taken out in self-defense, leading Diana to claim Mira's crown as a warning. Conflict ensues, but after the Flashpoint event, Diana arrives in Washington, D.C. with Steve Trevor to meet the president, only to be confronted by angry protesters who criticize her attire and actions. Discovering the truth through her lasso of truth, she and Steve proceed to meet with the president. Number 5. Swamp Thing. Alec Holland, a brilliant scientist, developed a revolutionary formula capable of solving food shortages worldwide. However, his life takes a dark turn when he is attacked in his lab and left for dead with an explosive device, we shall say. Awakened by the explosion, Alec finds himself transformed into Swamp Thing as he stumbles into the nearby swamp, saturated in his own biorestorative formula. Now connected to the mystical life force called the Green, Swamp Thing becomes the guardian of plant life and serves the Parliament of Trees. He possesses Alec's consciousness and memories, but focuses his efforts solely on protecting the Green rather than protecting humanity itself. When Batman and the Justice League Dark seek his help in locating Felix Faust, Swamp Thing agrees to transport them, but refuses to join their fight unless it directly endangers the natural world. Reluctantly, he engages in battle against Destiny at Constantine's request, but he is ultimately defeated when Destiny separates Alec Holland's corpse from his body, causing Swamp Thing to disintegrate. Despite his reluctance, Swamp Thing's presence and powers play a vital role in the struggle against supernatural threats. Number 4. Aquaman. while Aquaman gets made fun of a lot for only being useful in water, sort of, the Flashpoint Paradox movie showed us that under the right circumstances, he can destroy the entire planet. Arthur Curry, the son of Thomas Curry and Queen Atlanta of Atlantis, was born out of wedlock during Atlanta's time on the surface. Although Atlanta loved Thomas and their son, she was bound by her promise and responsibilities to marry the next king of Atlantis. Unable to marry Thomas or raise a half-breed child, she left them at Mercy Reef and returned to Atlantis. When Arthur was young, he disobeyed his father's warnings and dove into the sea, where he briefly encountered his own mother. They shared a tender moment before she vanished, leaving Arthur with a kiss on his forehead. Very cute. Despite Arthur's excitement and his attempt to share the encounter with his father, Tom Curry dismissed it as a figment of Arthur's imagination, meaning he gaslit his own son. That's what that means. Curry reassured his son that it was just the two of them and Atlanta was gone for good. As Arthur grew up, he felt that something was wrong with him, leading him to seek help from Dr. Stephen Shin, a marine biologist who had knowledge of Atlantis. Number 3. Spectre. Spectre is the embodiment of divine vengeance and serves as the enforcer of God's will. When someone is nearing death, Spectre utilizes them as a vessel to carry out the universe's purpose. In an attempt to save John Constantine, who had caused a major disruption by altering the timeline, Spectre intervened. He guided and protected Barry Allen through the Speed Force, shielding him and the new universe from Darkseid's pursuit. However, this upset the cosmic balance, and the universe sought to punish Constantine for his actions. Despite recognizing Constantine's past deeds and offering him a seemingly idyllic eternity with his loved ones in the House of Mystery, Constantine's self-loathing transformed the experience into a nightmarish existence. When Constantine confronted Spectre and explained the circumstances, the Spectre realized his inability to offer further assistance. As a blinding white light engulfed Constantine, he screamed in horror, drawn into a fate beyond Spectre's control. Number 2. Dr. Fate. When Steel Maxim was chosen by the Lords of Order during his jogging session up a mountain, don't ask me why, he became the next Dr. Fate due to his physical condition. The Helm of Fate appeared and was bestowed upon him. As Dr. Fate, Maxim used his mystical powers to uphold order and find personal fulfillment in his own mission. He formed a romantic relationship with the Silver Banshee and eventually revealed the location of the Tower of Fate to her. However, 2 months later, Steel was manipulated by Scandal Savage and Knockout, who wanted to acquire the Get Out of Hell free card from the Tower of Fate. Steel, unaware of their true intentions, led them to the tower hoping for a reward. During a fight, Steel became suspicious of Scandal's disappearance. Knockout intercepted him, and in the ensuing struggle, Steel was knocked unconscious. He was later stripped of his power by the Lords of Order, but while he was Dr. Fate, this man had some serious mojo, and anyone who uses the mantle of Dr. Fate after will have that same mojo. Number 1. The Flash. To be totally fair, The Flash has literally resulted in changes to the continuity in the Flashpoint story. The Flashpoint story in the comics resulted in the creation of the New 52, but if we're strictly talking animated movies, he still changed the whole timeline to a universe where the Earth got destroyed, all because he saved his mom. So if he can do that without trying that hard, imagine what he could do if he had an actual plan. Look at Reverse Flash, for example. He was able to extend his own life for ages after actually taking a wound to the head by Thomas Wayne Batman. Imagine the Flash deciding to bring the Savitar story into the animated universe. Yeah, I'm gonna say that the Flash can definitely destroy every world if he wanted to, and therefore is the most powerful DC animated universe superhero.
Coming in at number 10, we have Sal Maroni, one of the biggest mob bosses in all of Gotham City without any superpowers. Known for having zero regard for human life and having even supervillains think he's a cold-hearted murderer, Sal's most iconic moment was actually the creation of a villain later in this list, when he threw acid in the face of District Attorney Harvey Dent and permanently scarred both his face and his soul. And while this acid attack was retconned during the New 52 into having been committed by someone else in Harvey Dent's life, Sal continues to appear in Batman comics as a vicious and intimidating mafia figure. Coming in at number 9, we have Morgan Edge, the founder of Intergang, an international crime syndicate working in the shadows across the entire globe. Intergang was created while Morgan was being manipulated and tutored by Darkseid, who had been sending visions to Morgan ever since he was just a little boy. Appearing to the public to be the charismatic charismatic leader of a media corporation and a potential rival to Lex Luthor, Morgan was secretly running one of the world's biggest crime empires, all in the service of an intergalactic warlord. Some people just do it for the money, but Morgan Edge had a different sort of reasoning entirely, and even after cutting ties with Darkseid, would go on to help form the Superman Revenge Squad. Coming in at number 8, we have Tobias Whale, the arch enemy of Black Lightning, an African-American albino crime lord that originally got his start as the leader of the gang known as the 100 in Metropolis. He's worked his way through many different criminal organizations over the years, even serving as a public face for Intergang for a time. His most notable criminal act occurred after the school teacher Jefferson Pierce spoke out against Tobias's drug trafficking, which Tobias repaid by murdering one of Jefferson's students. This incident was what prompted Jefferson to become the hero Black Lightning in the first place, and while it may have added a superhero to the world, Tobias's brutal way of sending a message shows that he's one of the most powerful crime bosses in all of Metropolis. Coming in at number 7, we have Carmine Falcone, potentially the most powerful member of the criminal underworld that isn't also a billionaire or wears a supervillain outfit. Falcone is the definition of traditional organized crime in Gotham City. Nicknamed the Roman because of his political violence and eagerness to expand his criminal empire, Falcone was one of the earliest foes of the Batman and had nearly the entire Gotham police force on his payroll during the Caped Crusaders' earliest days. And while Batman has since been able to shrink Falcone's influence over Gotham significantly, he's still a dangerous foe that likes to press his advantage every time there's a power vacuum amongst the many supervillains of Gotham City. And speaking of supervillains, coming in at number 6, we have Waylon Jones, aka the infamous Killer Croc. Born with a medical condition that just may be alien in nature and gives him the appearance of a human-crocodile hybrid, Killer Croc initially used his overpowered figure to wrestle with crocodiles for a local circus. However, he soon found out that the world of Gotham's criminal underbelly was far more lucrative for someone of his bloody talents, and became a rising star on the criminal scene, ascending so fast that many other supervillains attempted to kill him before he could become too big of a threat, including the Joker. Ever since, Killer Croc has been considered one of the most dangerous people in Gotham and one of the few criminals willing to literally eat his enemies. Coming in at number 5, we're finally getting to Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. Originally fighting on the side of justice with Bruce Wayne as Gotham's district attorney, Harvey Dent's mind was split in two following an acid attack from Sal Maroni that scarred exactly one half of his face. Making all of his decisions through a coin flip based on his past childhood trauma, Two-Face is one of the most well-known villains of Batman, and has managed to turn his tragic scarring incident into a criminal empire, capable of going toe-to-toe with criminals that Harvey Dent had once put behind bars. He might be crazy and his methods may seem randomly 50-50, but Two-Face is definitely still smart enough to be one of Gotham's most devious criminals. Coming in at number 4, we have Roman Sionis, aka Black Mask. A longtime Batman villain and one of the most prominent figures in the Gotham City underworld, Black Mask is best well known for his, well, black mask, apparently handcrafted out of the coffin of his own mother. Originally a member of the Gotham elite as the CEO of Janus Cosmetics, Roman fell into ruin after his company failed. Blaming Bruce Wayne for his own poor business sense, Roman embraced the name of Black Mask and formed his own criminal organization called the False Face Society, intending to fight back and reclaim the city that he thinks has done him so much wrong. Coming in at number 3, we have Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. The owner of the Iceberg Lounge, perhaps the most famous criminal hangout in all of Gotham, the Penguin might look similar to his namesake, but is far more deadly in reality. While an impressive crime lord even without any superhuman enhancements, the Penguin is made extra deadly by the special umbrella he carries, which is always stuffed to the brim with different lethal gadgets to help him fight against Batman or any other supervillain that seems interested in starting a turf war. Coming in at number 2, we have the one and only Lex Luthor. Hating the idea of an alien like Superman having so much power and receiving so much love on planet Earth, Lex Luthor has been everything from a mad scientist to a ruthless businessman to even the President of the United States in his desperate quest to rid the world of the Man of Steel once and for all. Throughout all of this, Lex has secretly run one of the world's most high-tech criminal enterprises, using his various connections with other criminals to further his own schemes and either aid LexCorp or hurt Superman. He may be merely a human being, but Lex is a criminal with enough power to stand up to Superman. And finally, coming in at our top spot, we have the one and only Joker. With so many interpretations and versions over the years, there's one aspect of the Joker's character that seems to show up more often than not, and that's the amount of henchmen he's able to maintain control of despite his unpredictability and complete insanity. Despite all of that, the Joker's criminal empire is often capable of rivaling even those belonging to villains that have been meticulously plotting their crimes for decades. And because of his sheer unpredictability and the loyalty he's able to inspire in people crazy enough to follow him, the Joker just might be the most dangerous crime boss in the entire DC universe.
Number 10. Animal Man. Buddy Baker was once a punk rocker who was chosen to be the protector of the red, aka the web of life, aka the morphogenetic field, which, put simply, is the force that binds all living things on Earth together. From then on, Buddy discovered that he was able to absorb the abilities of any animal anytime he was in the presence of it, and he could summon those abilities at will, using them to fight crime and whatnot. These abilities include the strength of a T-Rex, the flight of a bird, the speed of an ant, the sonic blast of a pistol shrimp, the stench of a skunk, and just a whole lot more. Donning his iconic orange and blue costume and calling himself Animal Man, Buddy has teamed up with the Forgotten Heroes and the Justice League on multiple occasions to help take down Vandal Savage, Queen Bee, the Time Commander, and more. Now, the biggest struggle in Buddy's life, however, is that he is both a family man and a superhero, and he often finds it pretty hard to strike a balance between the two. Check out Animal Man for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1965's Strange Adventures number 180, or feel free to skip ahead to his Prime Earth counterpart, starting with 2011's Flashpoint Volume 2, number 5. Number 9. Gotham Girl. Clara Clover, aka Gotham Girl, was half of the metahuman crime fighter duo that fought to protect Gotham City. Now, it's not really explained how or when, but Gotham Girl received her powers after purchasing a set of metahuman powers that are now tied to her life force, and the strength of her powers is determined by how much life force she is willing to sacrifice to use them, meaning more life force equals crazy strong powers. However, this was later resolved when Batman exposed her to some platinum kryptonite. These powers include superhuman strength and stamina, flight, invulnerability, and some good old-fashioned heat vision. She made her debut in Gotham alongside her brother by helping Batman save a plane that was hijacked by the Cobra cult, and at that point Batman decided to take them both under his wing to train them as better heroes. After the death of her brother, she had a ton of trouble coping, but thankfully Batman was there to help her through it by letting her in on his own struggles in his own life. The worst thing she's ever done, though, that makes me even question if she's a hero, was when she revealed to have been working alongside Bane, completely physically and emotionally breaking Batman. Check her out for yourself, starting with 2016's DCU Rebirth number 1. Number 8. Captain Marvel Jr. Now, it's no secret that superhero comics love bringing in a sidekick every now and then. After Batman got Robin in 1940, Captain Marvel was given Captain Marvel Jr. just a year later, and as obscure as he might be compared to more famous sidekicks, he was known well enough by Elvis Presley that the King himself decided to model his onstage costumes after Captain Marvel Jr. Just as the Wizard imbued Billy Batson with the power of Shazam, the Captain imparted a portion of his powers to Freddy while he lay dying because of an accident that he caused. Now, by saying the words Captain Marvel out loud, he gained all of the abilities that the original Captain has, just to a slightly lesser degree. In his human form, Freddy is forced to walk with a crutch due to a bad left leg, but as Captain Marvel Jr., he has full capabilities of his body, and then some. Now, that is just the original CMJ who debuted in 1941's Wiz Comics number 25. The Freddie Freeman that debuted in DC's The Power of Shazam number 3 also has a pretty similar origin. However, his powers were granted him directly from the Six Gods as opposed to getting them from Shazam, making him their direct champion. As a member of the Teen Titans, Justice League of America, and the New Young Justice, Freddy has helped take down some serious baddies. However, his powers were robbed from him by Osiris, and since then, he has not been able to take the form of Captain Marvel Jr. Check out Freddie Freeman for yourself and let me know what you think of him in the comments below. Number 7. Plastic Man. Originally a criminal who went by the name Eel O'Brien, Patrick O'Brien gained his malleable body after being shot and exposed to an unknown acid. When he woke up, he discovered that his entire body was elastic, and it took him a while to get the hang of it, but eventually he was able to learn how to use his powers to his advantage. Partnered up with Woozy Winks, the two stopped an attempted robbery, and from that point on, Patrick became known as the hero Plastic Man. Now, not only can Plastic Man stretch himself at will, he can also increase or decrease his size, posing as a tiny little action figure or growing to the size of a building, and he can increase his own strength by growing or adding muscle mass to his body, and he can even shapeshift, taking the form of basically anything that is impossible for humans to achieve without breaking every bone in their body. As an occasional member of the Justice League, Plastic Man not only became good friends with Batman, but he helped take down Clayface, Dr. Psycho, and played a rather large role during the Blackest Night storyline, fighting all of these zombified heroes and seemingly dying in the process. Check out his entire story for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1988's Secret Origins Volume 2, number 30, or feel free to skip ahead to his Prime Earth counterpart story, starting with 2011's Justice League International Volume 3, number 1. Number 6, The Phantom Stranger. The original Phantom Stranger was a mysterious figure whose origin and name have never been revealed. The Phantom Stranger is truly just an enigma. My favorite origin story for him is that he was originally a private citizen during the biblical times and was spared from God's wrath. An angel was then sent to deliver him from said divine wrath, and after questioning God's actions, he committed but the angel forbid his spirit from entering the afterlife, and reanimated his body and condemned him to walk the world forever, to be a part of humanity but also forever separated from it. It was then he discovered his divine charge to turn humanity away from evil one soul at a time. Basically, his entire goal was to provide warnings for events that were on their way without actually intervening himself. These warnings were often very cryptic because of this, since he's not allowed to directly stop anything. As an immortal with immense magical powers including, but not limited to, dimensional travel, spectral sight, transmutation, and energy blast, the Phantom Stranger has helped out the Justice League on multiple occasions and has inadvertently saved countless lives. Check him out for yourself in his first appearance in 1952's The Phantom Stranger number 1, or check out his Prime Earth counterpart in 2012's Justice League Volume 2, number 6. Number 5, Mary Marvel. Fun fact, Mary Marvel has the distinction of being the very first female spin-off of a male superhero, making her debut in 1942's Captain Marvel Adventures Volume 1 number 18, predating Supergirl by more than a decade. Now, just like her twin brother Billy Batson, she became involved with the world of wizards and magic words, and by calling out the name Shazam, she can take on these same powers as her brother. However, in many of their stories, it's explained that she, her brother, and Freddie Freeman all share a finite amount of power, meaning that the more heroes who use their abilities, the weaker they all are. Interestingly enough though, Mary has also received her powers from other sources outside of Shazam. Black Adam previously gave her his powers, making her prone to violence, and Darkseid further manipulated her powers to turn her into a purely evil entity, able to cut right through a human body without any remorse or resistance. In this form, she was able to overpower someone as strong as Wonder Woman. Honestly, it doesn't really matter where she gets her powers from, she is definitely a formidable foe and more than deserves a spot on this list today. Now, if you want to know more about this character, check her out in her first appearance, or feel free to skip ahead to a more recent storyline in 1994's The Power of Shazam graphic novel. Number 4, Icon. Hailing from the planet Turbinus, Augustus Freeman, aka Icon, was marooned on Earth in 1839 in the Deep South. He worked long and hard and was very involved in a lot of black history, but it wasn't until he met Raquel Irvin that he became Icon, the icon for the black community of Dakota City. Augustus is portrayed as a very intelligent and somewhat rigid person, and due to his upper class job as a big-time lawyer and his quote-unquote proper way of speaking, he is often criticized for being a sellout, which isn't true at all. He just likes to do things properly and by the book, you know? Thanks to his alien physiology, Freeman has superhuman strength, speed, agility, and stamina. He can also fly and is basically invulnerable and doesn't actually need any food or sustenance to survive. After seeing him use his powers, Raquel persuaded Augustus to become a superhero named Icon, with herself as his sidekick, Rocket, thanks to the help of an inertia belt that allows her to manipulate kinetic energy. Throughout the majority of his series, Icon and Rocket do their best to take down these street thugs and criminals that gained powers after the Big Bang, which was a massive riot where quantum-juiced tear gas was thrown and gave superpowers to a vast majority of people. Check out the Icon and his series for yourself, starting with 1993's Icon number 1. Number 3, Zatanna. One of the greatest magic users in the DC universe, Zatanna is the daughter of the legendary magician Zatara, and does all that she can to live up to his legacy and his expectations. She spends her nights working as a simple stage magician, you know, card tricks and all that jazz, and then her late nights working as a consulting sorcerer and a superhero. Typically, to activate her spells, she speaks backwards, like for example, Tagroff would make someone forget something, Lay would heal any wound, you know, etc, etc. But that is all just for showmanship because she can actually cast her spells by speaking normally or with no words at all, and on occasion she will write them down in her own blood. Aside from minor manipulations, Zatanna is also capable of complete elemental control, teleportation, altering reality, time travel, and a whole lot of other crazy stuff. Throughout the comics, we have seen her team up with the Justice League of America and the Sentinels of Magic to help take down the Secret Society of Villains, Eclipso, and so many more. Check out Zatanna for yourself in her first appearance in 1964's Hawkman #4, or if you'd rather see her Prime Earth counterpart, check out 2011's Justice League Dark #1. Number 2, Mon-El. Did you know that Kryptonians aren't the only alien race that gain incredible superpowers with exposure to a yellow sun? Daxamites from the planet Daxam are actually an evolutionary offshoot from the people of Krypton, and much like their cousins, they gain all the abilities that Superman possesses on Earth. With that in mind, enter Mon-El, a Daxamite hero who was inspired by Superboy. Mon-El traveled to Earth when a young Clark Kent was still living in Smallville. When he was exposed to lead, his one and only weakness, Mon-El had to be placed in the Phantom Zone to save his life. Thousands of years later, he was cured by Brainiac 5 and recruited into the Legion of Superheroes, where he has been considered one of the most powerful members just to date. He might not be quite as strong as his Kryptonian counterparts, but he has shown that he can take anyone from the super family in a fight, as he's wiped the floor with the likes of Supergirl, Superboy, and even the Man of Steel himself. After the establishment of New Krypton, Superman decided to live with his people, and he then trusted Mon-El enough to entrust him with the city of Metropolis and a place in the Justice League. Check out his story for yourself in his first appearance in 1961's Superboy #89. And number 1, Captain Atom. Sentenced to death for a crime he didn't even commit, Captain Nathaniel Atom was offered a full pardon if he took part in an experiment involving an alien metal and a nuclear bomb. He accepted, and instead of killing him, he survived the explosion and was blasted 18 years into the future and bonded with the metal to become Captain Atom. From that point on, he was basically a living nuclear reactor, meaning he could absorb and redirect energy, see electronic signals, and unleash massive energy blasts that can destroy cities, one of which was strong enough to destroy an entire universe. He can also change some physical properties of certain materials, turning arrows into butterflies, or even, creating his own universe. Now that is just one iteration of Captain Atom. How about we take a look at the second, Alan Atom. Now Alan Atom was the character carried over to DC from the original Charlton Comics series. Essentially a quantum Superman, Captain Alan Atom was born in a nuclear fire. Having his body reassembled with the aid of his atomically supercharged mind, he became a physical god on Earth. He has all the powers and abilities of Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan, and he was one of the few characters to survive Final Crisis, which I think just outright states how strong he is. Number 10, Count Vertigo. Now aptly named Werner Vertigo, he is a man who was born with an inner ear defect that affected his balance. So naturally he was implanted with the device that not only corrected that, but also gave him the ability to cause extreme vertigo in other people. That's right, his entire ability is disrupting his enemy's balance, and honestly you might think that's not really anything to write home about, but trust me, it is a lot more useful than you might think. Now Count Vertigo uses his ability to mess up the aim of even the best marksmen, to disrupt the guidance system of some of the most high-tech machinery, and even uses it to manipulate the emotions of people, causing them to flop between emotions like crazy. Now there are also 2 other Count Vertigos that fought against Green Arrow, but they use drugs to cause the same effects in their victims, and we are going to ignore them because using drugs is not cool.
It's true, it's not cool.
It's really not.
Number 9, Calendar Man. Calendar Man to most people is just a guy who's obsessed with the date. But in reality, he is also one of the most accomplished villains. During his first appearance, he almost managed to defeat Batman, one of the greatest and smartest detectives in the world, straight out of the gate, by giving him an almost unsolvable problem. Calendar Man sent an anonymous letter promising to commit 5 crimes, one each day, each one corresponding to a particular season and theme, with the 5th day also being a clue as to the true identity of Calendar Man, with the 5th season. Batman failed to capture Calendar Man on the first 4 days, often arriving too late to the scene of the crime. And on the 5th day, it was only an ad for Calendar Man's side hustle as a magician who was playing 5 days at the Bijou Theater in Gotham that allowed Batman to connect the dots. Where would Batman be without ads from the local newspaper? Local newspapers, they're important.
They really are. You always gotta support local.
Yeah.
Number 8, Phobia. Quite possibly one of the most underrated villains in the DC universe, Angela Hawkins III is Phobia, a member of the Brotherhood of Evil and constant enemy of the new Teen Titans that is capable of bringing your deepest and darkest fears to the surface. She basically uses psychic abilities to access the fear center of your brain and creates incredibly lifelike illusions that incapacitate pretty much everyone except for a select few who have been shown to be immune. Funnily enough, she is actually not immune to her own powers because she has some deep, dark insecurities and phobias hidden away as well, behind that, tough exterior. And that was exploited by Raven in an attempt to convert her to the hero side of things. Obviously that didn't work though, because since then, she has joined the Injustice League as a new member.
Number 7. Giganta. You expect Giganta to be strong, of course, considering she is a gigantic woman, but I also feel like she's a villain that is more often than not forgotten by people. So while you might expect the strength to come along with her, you just wouldn't really expect her at all most days. Dora Azul was attempting to cure her rare blood disease that she was born with by experimenting on herself. Her mad scientist ways caused her to end up in a conflict with Wonder Woman and later caused her to also become the villain she is today. In the original continuity of New Earth, Dora abducted the body of a strong woman named Olga, putting her own consciousness into that body and gaining the ability to grow in size when her plot to steal Wonder Woman's body had failed her.
Number 6. Automatopoeia. Now I personally love a good automatopoeia, but hey, I will take a bad one every now and then, and that is exactly what this villain is. He is a serial killer that specifically targets non-powered heroes, and he is so aptly named because he imitates the noises around him, such as his gunfire or the dripping water. He's also seen to be surprisingly durable for a human, able to take 6 arrows without slowing him down, and drop at least 7 stories and just keep on running. Now this highly trained villain is one of the most clever out there, not only attacking Oliver Queen's son Connor, but fooling Batman so much that he reveals his own identity. And also in true villain fashion, he messed with Batman even further by killing his fiancée Silver St. Cloud, slitting her throat while imitating the sound Batman's utility belt makes.
Number 5. Punchline. Punchline is a newer villain on the scene and as such has definitely been underestimated. But honestly, it's this attitude that only serves to fuel Punchline's desire to prove that she is actually worthy of all of that hype. As far as we know, she is like Joker, a non-powered human being. Punchline typically fights with small stiletto blades, and despite only being in a few issues so far, she has managed to slit Harley Quinn's throat and create her own specific brew of Joker venom just for Batman, which has succeeded in making him go pretty crazy recently. Imagining Alfred is still alive and still on his communique system, despite the fact that, you know, he's very dead.
Number 4. Amazo. A super deadly android designed by the insane in the membrane scientist Professor Ivo that acts as an enemy to the Justice League. Thanks to its synthetic body, Amazo is capable of replicating anything about a person in its general vicinity, including their powers and skills, so you can probably understand why this android is so powerful and so dangerous. Amazo has been shown duplicating the powers and skills of Superman, Green Lantern, Zatanna, Black Canary, Elongated Man, and so many more, meaning his arsenal of powers to choose from is absolutely ridiculous. Not only that, he also has the ability to temporarily negate the powers of the hero that he's mimicking. So, for example, he could strip Superman of his powers for a finite amount of time and just pummel him into the dirt. That is absolutely insane if you ask me, and that is why he is on this list today.
Number 3. Harley Quinn. In Batman the Animated Series, Harley Quinn unintentionally pissed off the Joker because she proved just how valuable of a partner in crime she was, and how capable she is as a villain without even the Joker's help, and has also done so with her pal Poison Ivy, though of course Harley and Ivy just believed they had kidnapped millionaire Bruce Wayne at the time and made him take them on a shopping spree. But still, that's pretty impressive. While many also think that Harley is always moving closer to becoming more soft and more of a hero than a baddie, let's not forget when she executed one of the most villainous plots, also without the Joker, killing tons of children across Gotham with free explosives that were disguised as video games, simply because she was bored and sort of feeling lost in terms of what to do with herself. So yeah, don't underestimate Harley Quinn.
Number 2. The Reverse Flash. Eobard Thawne, one of the many speedsters that you'll find scattered throughout time and space in the DC universe. Also known as Professor Zoom, this biggest Flash fanatic to ever live is capable of basically all the things that the Flash and his Speed family can do, you know, like time travel, super speed, and electrokinesis. But what really sets him apart is his ability to completely negate another's connection to the Speed Force, effectively stripping his fellow speedsters of their powers and rendering them honestly useless. His most impressive feat though would probably be when he, you know, set the entirety of the New 52 in motion by creating the Flashpoint timeline. Almost every hero and villain dies in some gruesome death thanks to the circumstances of this new universe, and yeah, that's pretty scary if you ask me.
Number 1. Lex Luthor. Now when you boil it down, Lex Luthor is just a dude. He's just a bald dude who has a big beef with Superman. Whether that's because he doesn't like the fact that Superman's an alien, or he blames Superman for his hair loss, depending on the comics you're reading. The fact remains that his brilliant intellect puts him in the running to be one of the strongest, most powerful, and definitely most iconic Superman villains of all time. The fact that 1. Luthor is also a human who keeps one of the most superpowered heroes, Superman, on his toes, and that 2. He managed to convince the country, despite being a supervillain, to vote him in as president, are both pretty impressive.
Number 10. Our Man. Now I'm sure we can all name a handful of heroes of super strength, but some heroes just aren't lucky enough to be born with it or just haven't been under the right circumstances to gain them. However, in the DC universe there is actually a pill that you can take to make yourself stronger, faster, more durable, and just more adaptable for exactly 1 hour called Miraclo. Put a little more scientifically, the active ingredient in Miraclo is a special form of phosphorus, which bonds temporarily with the ATP in muscle cells to create an adenosine quad phosphate, which energizes the cells. With this pill, the vigilante known as Hourman was able to fight crime. Now there have been 2 men that have taken up the Hourman mantle, so let's just briefly go over both of them. Rex Tyler was the original Hourman and the scientist who actually created Miraclo. He used it to fight against crime during the Golden Age. Despite being an average human in every way, he was able to fight alongside the Justice Society and the freedom fighters thanks to this drug. And then his son Richard Tyler took up the mantle after his father's retirement, taking the Miraclo pills against his father's wishes in order to save Rex and then his fellow Justice Society members as well. Now despite his strength, Hourman was never anything close to the powerhouse like Superman. Honestly, he wasn't even ever the strongest member of his own team, but he sure could throw a punch in that 1 hour window, and that is why he's on this list today. Check him out for yourself in his first appearance in 1940's Adventure Comics number 48. Number 9. Tanga. A pretty obscure character in the DC universe, so don't feel too bad if you're not familiar with her. Tanga is a cosmic being whose only real goal is to search for simple pleasures throughout the cosmos, which is just super wholesome, and I love it. She was introduced to us in the comic miniseries Real Worlds by Kevin Maguire, and though she talks about having met Lobo and other members of the Green Lantern Corps before, we've never actually seen the character interact with anyone else, making us wonder if she's just making it all up. Although we don't know much about her abilities or powers, in terms of raw power, she certainly deserves her spot on this list today. When we first met her, she starts out as the guardian of the planet Chimera, and spends her time defeating monsters to protect the people there. She doesn't know her own strength though, which means she lacks the fine control necessary to master her powers, whatever they may be. Check her out for yourself in her first appearance in 2011's Weird Worlds Volume 2, Number 1. Number 8. Ultra Boy. In the far future of the 30th and 31st century, young heroes from around the universe banded together to form the Legion of Superheroes. We know about members like Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, Saturn Girl, and Brainiac 5, but when the team needs some muscle, they call upon Jonah of Rimbor, more commonly known as the superhero powerhouse Ultra Boy. Out of all the Legionnaires with all their different powers, he is one of the strongest characters on the team. While many of these characters use the natural abilities of the race to protect the citizens of the United Planets, Ultra Boy received his powers from exposure to radiation thanks to prolonged exposure to an energy beast. He has been shown to have all the same abilities as Superman, but he is so low on this list today because he can only use one of those powers at a time. He has the strength to rival the Man of Steel himself, but given the limitation of his abilities, Ultra Boy has a huge weakness. However, despite this, he remains one of the most useful members of the team. Check out Ultra Boy for yourself in his first appearance in 1962's Superboy number 98. Number 7. Loose Cannon. Back in the early 1990s, DC Comics used the Bloodlines crossover as an excuse to create a ton of new superheroes and villains. These new bloods were given powers when alien parasites attacked them, resulting in the creation of the superhero team the Blood Pack, and heroes like Hitman, Gunfire, and many others. Eager to have its own version of the Hulk, DC introduced the character Loose Cannon, who was a cop by the name of Eddie Walker before he gained incredible superpowers that made him seem destined for the spotlight. Similar to the Hulk, Eddie takes on a massive form when he gets angry. However, unlike his counterpart, Loose Cannon has several stages to its transformation. When he initially gets angry, his skin turns blue, but as he gets madder, it changes color. The next stage is purple, followed by red, until finally his skin is completely ghost white to match the white, hot rage he feels inside. In his most powerful form, Loose Cannon becomes uncontrollable and is unable to put together a coherent thought, which is absolutely terrifying because we have seen what characters like that can do. Check out this colorful beast of a hero for yourself in his first appearance in 1993's Action Comics Annual number 5. Number 6. Damage. Were you hoping for back-to-back DC Hulk clones on this list today? Well, I hope so, because that is pretty much what Damage is. In an attempt to create its own superpowered soldiers, the military conducted tests using dark matter energy left over from the Dark Knight's Metal event. The result was Ethan Avery, who gained the ability to transform into a giant, superpowered form for exactly 1 hour. Just how strong is Damage? Well, it's been heavily implied that he is much stronger than Superman himself. Even given just 1 hour, the monster has proven able to make easy work of modern military weaponry like tanks and aircrafts, and on top of that, he has defeated the Suicide Squad, Poison Ivy, and even proved to be too much for someone like Wonder Woman to handle. After the two fought in the streets and Diana took a serious beating, she told Batman and Superman that Damage could be the strongest opponent she has ever faced, which would actually include the Man of Steel himself. Hopefully one day we get a fight between the two so we can see just how much stronger he is than Superman. Give Damage Story a read for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2017's Dark Days of the Casting, number 1. Number 5. Atom Smasher. Now, most superheroes with increased strength are disproportionately sized compared to the insane abilities that they're shown to have. Like, sure, Superman can lift an entire building over his head, but does he really look like a dude who can practically do anything he sets his mind to? Yeah, that's what I thought. Frequent Justice Society member Al Rothstein changes that up a bit because he has the ability to grow in size and can alter his density and strength directly proportional to that size, meaning if he's 60 feet tall, he is going to have the abilities a human being would have if they were that size. Even at his normal height of 7'6", Atom Smasher has been shown to be a formidable foe for anyone who crosses his path. He's capable of just plucking a jet plane out of the sky with ease, and can compete with just about any other superpowered person that comes to mind. Atom Smasher has put up a fight against the likes of Power Girl, Solomon Grundy, Martian Manhunter, Black Adam, and even fought off the Spectre once. Al also took the young hero Grant Emerson, aka the Other Damage, under his wing while the kid was trying to figure out himself, and even he, with his own super strength, couldn't match up to Atom Smasher, who easily pinned him down with one hand and just straight up knocked him out. Check out Atom Smasher's ridiculous strength for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1983's All-Star Squadron number 25. Number 4. Infinity Man. Now, the identity of Infinity Man varies, but regardless of who is underneath that mask, he is always one of the most powerful warriors of the members of New Genesis. There have been at least 3 Infinity Men throughout DC Comics, the first being Astor, who passed on his powers to Drax, the older brother of Darkseid. And then the third is the primer incarnation of the character named Isaiah, who is the combined form of all of the Forever People. This most recent version of the character is one half of High Father, after the leader of New Genesis had gone to the Source Wall seeking answers for the war between him and Darkseid, and found the compassionate half of himself stripped away completely. This kinder and compassionate half is the one that became Infinity Man, and thanks to his new god physiology, he possesses basically all the abilities of Darkseid and the other new gods, and uses his powers for good. The original Infinity Man was created by the legendary Jack Kirby. Check out the original incarnations in 1971's Forever People number 1, or take a look at the New 52 Infinity Man in 2014's Infinity Man and the Forever People number 2. Number 3. Big Barda. The new gods of New Genesis and Apocalypse are some of the most powerful cosmic entities in the universe. Now, they may all pale in comparison to the likes of Darkseid, but each has their own levels of strength and unique abilities. One of the most powerful among these new gods is Big Barda, who was trained at a young age to be a member and eventual leader of Darkseid's elite warriors, the Female Furies. She eventually rebelled against her controllers, escaped Apocalypse, and joined the New Genesis. Big Barda and Mr. Miracle are now married and living happily together on Earth, but that does not mean that they shy away from a fight when they have to. Over the years, Big Barda has shown herself to be one of the fiercest warriors in the DC universe, as her strength and fighting skills rival the abilities of Wonder Woman. She can overpower her former teammates and has defeated the likes of Knockout and Calabac in one-on-one combat. Her husband may be remembered as the world's greatest escape artist, but it's really Barda who holds the power in this relationship. In the past, Big Barda had served under the Justice League of America, proving that she can stand side by side with the world's greatest heroes, but sadly she dies at the hands of Infinity Man. However, at the end of Final Crisis, she is seen with a newborn Regenesis, so we're all kinda confused as to what's going on with her now. Give her story a read for yourself, starting with her first appearance all the way back in 1971's Mr. Miracle number 4. Number 2. Orion. The biological son of the villainous Darkseid, Orion is an elite level warrior and seems to be the only other new god who can actually physically harm Darkseid in any meaningful way. Representative of the constant struggle of nature and nurture, Orion struggles to control his rage and inner brutal nature, but he's still considered to be one of the greatest and most powerful allies of New Genesis. Orion also has the benefit of his Astro Harness, capable of harnessing energy directly from the source itself, that he calls the Astro Force. On multiple occasions, he is shown to be as strong as the likes of Superman and Wonder Woman, and this was further proven with the biggest achievement he has on his resume: the fact that he was actually the one who finally took out Darkseid himself. With the elimination of the new gods in the lead up to Final Crisis, the final 2 members of this cosmic race of gods fought it out in the streets of Earth. Orion finally dug deep in himself and became the monster he had always tried to stop himself from being, and managed to battle Darkseid to a standstill. However, that all changed when the sun destroyed the father, and he ripped out Darkseid's heart directly out of his body in just one foul swoop. He was unfortunately killed during Final Crisis though with a Radion bullet. However, he was resurrected later on Earth alongside the rest of the new gods. Check out Darkseid's sons for yourself in his first appearance all the way back in 1971's New Gods, number 1. And number 1, the Spectre. The most powerful being in the DC universe by far has to be the Spectre. As God's spirit of vengeance, he is blessed with all sorts of powerful magical abilities, but it's his raw strength that really sets him apart from everyone else. The power of the Spectre is so great that it actually needs a human host in order to be kept in check. Jim Corrigan, Hal Jordan, and Christmas Allen have each taken control of the spirit of vengeance in order to enact his own version of justice onto the world. Over the years, we've seen the Spectre's amazing abilities, like how he's essentially invulnerable to all physical attacks. Unless you're Batman, that one time Spectre allowed him to hurt him. That was a weird sort of storyline, I don't know. This magical entity also has the ability to take out the entire magical community in one fist fight at a time. We're talking defeating Shazam with literally just one punch to the face. He's also seen capable of wrangling the Red Lantern Avatar of Rage, known as the Butcher, with just his bare hands. His most impressive feat though would have to be the time he engaged the Anti-Monitor in hand-to-hand combat and was able to overpower him for control over all of creation. The heroes needed his power in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and he delivered in a very big way, saving all of reality from the brink. Check out this all-powerful being for yourself in its first appearance in 1940's More Fun Comics, number 52.